Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 3 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's yours, and of course it's theirs. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. You're thinking, what the hell she got on her head? Yeah, I know, it's all right, isn't it? Well, joining me today, it's broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. Now, in a few moments' time, I'll be mucking the week with comedian Diane Spencer. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is now facing a third by-election test after Nigel Adams becomes the latest Conservative MP to resign. He's standing down with immediate effect, meaning a by-election in his Selby and Ainsty constituency. Boris Johnson and Nadine Dorries resigned yesterday. The Privileges Committee will meet on Monday to conclude its inquiry into whether Mr Johnson misled Parliament and will publish a report shortly. Shadow Deputy Leader Angela Rayner says it's clear he lied.
Boris Johnson has shown himself to be a coward once more. You know, he's not held his hands up to and taken responsibility as he should do. The Privileges Committee, a well-respected committee that are made up majority of Tory MPs, and he's just tried to trash them and say, I've got no responsibility, I've done nothing wrong. He's a man that can never hold his hands up to what he's done, and I think it's an absolute disgrace. And, you know, good riddance. He shouldn't have been in Parliament in the first place.
Well, we asked people in Boris Johnson's constituency what they think.
He's actually done a good thing for the constituency in resigning, because I think it opens it for somebody that can come in and do a better job for us.
I wouldn't say I'm pleased. I think, isn't government more than one man? Shouldn't we be doing more than just going after individuals?
I loved him as a character and I thought he was great, so it's sad.
In other news this afternoon, a Syrian refugee accused of stabbing a young British girl and 3 other children in the French Alps has received preliminary charges of attempted murder. The group of children, aged between 22 months and 3 years, along with 2 elderly adults, were attacked on Thursday. The 31-year-old suspect has been remanded in custody. Prosecutors said the 3-year-old British girl will be able to leave hospital soon. At least 4 military personnel involved in the Colonel's Review at Horse Guards Parade appeared to faint this afternoon due to high temperatures. Prince William completed the final evaluation of the parade ahead of trooping the colour next Saturday. Well, it comes as the Met Office confirms that UK temperatures reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 degrees being recorded in Heathrow. Florida's governor has criticised the indictment of Donald Trump. Despite being his rival in the Republican presidential race, Ron DeSantis argues there are double standards in issuing charges. He claims nothing has been done about Hillary Clinton's email controversy during her time as Secretary of State, while Trump has been charged with mishandling classified documents and keeping them in his Florida house. A former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations, Steve Gill, told GB News the move is politically motivated.
You have President Biden, who had documents as vice president and U.S. senator stashed in his garage with his Corvette and at the University of Pennsylvania and other locations around the country. Hillary Clinton destroyed thousands of documents, including bashing phones that were under subpoena. So I think what we're seeing is this horrific third world type prosecution of a political opponent by the Biden administration. And I think most Americans will see through this.
An extra £16 million of humanitarian aid is being sent to Ukraine following a dam explosion. The government says the money will be used to help around 32,000 people whose homes were flooded after the blast. Ukraine has blamed Russia for the attack, which Moscow denies. 4 Colombian children have been rescued more than 5 weeks after their plane crashed in a jungle. The siblings, aged 13, 9, 4 and 1, were found by the military not far from the crash site. They've been taken to a military hospital for specialist medical care. Well, last month, the President wrongly announced they had been found, but he's now described the discovery as a joy for the whole country. The children's mother, pilot and co-pilot died in the crash. In sport, Manchester City is hoping for a big win tonight. That's in the UEFA Champions League final. They're taking on Inter Milan and Istanbul. And if they win, they'll become the second team to win all 3 competitions in one season, after winning the Premier League and FA Cup this season as well. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time for Muck the Week. Well, the week began with this.
Right. Deep breath. Firstly, are you OK? I hope so.
Yes, but you're even better. I think what you really meant to say was this.
I have to process this. But firstly, are you OK? Because, like me, you're probably struggling how to compartmentalise and process this information. It's really difficult for me right now as I stifle my emotions about landing the top job because my co-host has completely up.
And there was no end of celebrities putting in their 2 pennies worth.
Hello, it is Tuesday. Are you OK?
Yes, I'm fine, Amanda. Then more Prince Harry. What an embarrassment.
You think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011, the time period that makes up your claim against MGM.
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
Somebody needs to save this poor boy from himself. Oops, he's done it again. I'm feeling sorry for him. He's just so good at playing the victim. They've promised, the pair of them, that they would stay behind the camera, but methinks that means that they're actually going to create a film of their life, but using actors. Then, are we really ready for a Labour government? Sir Keir Starmer said that he's going to ban new North Sea oil and gas drilling to add to the anger of many in his party and the unions. Totally unrealistic. Just another ill-conceived policy from Sir Keir Starmer at Labour HQ. He's now rolling back on it after entrepreneurs like Dale Vince gave him his backing. Dale stands to gain substantially if green policies are adopted. He owns Ecotricity. It's a wind farm company, a charging company. He sells vegan food, and although I have spoken to Dem, to be fair to him, he said that he'd back any party that fully committed to the green agenda. And another one of Sir Keir Starmer's harebrained schemes, which has been calculated at being pointless, was the one about removing the charitable status of private schools. Now, this ridiculous plan is only pushing Labour further down the rabbit hole. You only need to cast your mind back to Gordon Brown and his tax plans that all but ruined Britain's pensions. God help us if Labour get into power, which is actually looking more likely as the Conservatives continue to implode. Then, of course, you've got Rishi Sunak, our unelected Prime Minister, claiming to be the Prime Minister of the North.
Now, we've averted the predicted recession, but my ambition goes far beyond that. We need to grow the economy, and I want the North to be at the heart of our economic growth. We will use our post-Brexit freedoms to create the most pro-innovation and pro-enterprise regulatory system on earth.
Yes, he's nobody's Prime Minister. No one elected him. The day before, he was claiming that there were 20% fewer crossings, although a lot was saying that that was all wind. And we've ended the week with Boris Johnson standing down after dishing out honours to his twin, Michael Fabricant, which I believe was well-deserved, and also Jacob Rees-Mogg. Nadine stepped down after it appears her peerage was retracted. I don't blame her. Why should she serve under Rishi Sunak and get no thanks for it? We've had some fun with Boris, haven't we?
And Tony, yesterday I went, as we all must, to Peppa Pig World. I don't know if you've been to Peppa Pig World. Who's been to? Hands up anyone who's been to Peppa Pig World. Not enough. it's fantastic. I was a bit hazy what I would find at Peppa Pig World, but I loved it. And Peppa Pig World is very much my kind of place.
Yes, I've been there. Yes. This is great, Boris. Boris spoke of Harriet Harman's kangaroo court that stitched him up over an uneaten birthday cake, a Remainer coup coming to get him. He stepped down as an MP, leaving the rudderless Tory ship to sail off into obscurity. It's been a mucky old week. Well, loads coming up in the next hour. Comedian Diane Spencer will be making light of this week's top stories in Mug the Week. And then at 3:20, it's climate control. Sir Keir Starmer has voted to further stop gas and exploration in the North Sea in a bid to make Britain a green energy superpower. Is that a good idea? And then at 3:35 in Health Watch, imagine surviving cancer and then getting a jab to prevent it from coming back. Stay tuned to find out more about this groundbreaking trial that could change the face of science. And then at 3:45, it's Political Spotlight. Tory MP and Boris backer Brendan Clark-Smith will be joining me to discuss all the gossip from the heart of Westminster, including last night's dramatic resignation of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That's on the way in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. So joining me now to muck the week even. So, I mean, it's muck, not mock. Muck the week is stand-up comedian Diane Spencer. Diane, God, it's been a mucky old week, isn't it?
Oh, my God, it's filthy. I can't wait to get down into this horrible paddling pool with you.
I know.
This is rank. I mean, Holly, are you OK?
I'm OK. Are you OK?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, what kind of mad ITV bubble do they have where they think that whatever happens in their production studio resonates out to... The rest of us are going, well, we're not OK, Holly, but it's nothing to do with you. Like, it's so self-absorbed. I'm absolutely shocked. But that speech is amazing, isn't it? Because I do wonder... Don't you wonder whether after they queue-jumped with the Queen, do you wonder whether sort of Holly smelt the change in the air and she thought, now's the time? Like, what if Holly was the leak? Do you know what I mean?
Do you think?
I mean, I'm just spitballing theories.
Yeah, you see, because, I mean, look, there's a lot of people who say, I don't see how she couldn't have worked out that something odd was happening there within the whole grounds of ITV. I don't even work there. I knew that there was some oddness happening. For her to sort of go, I didn't know anything about it, it's like, look, OK, we'll give her that, but I don't think This Morning can survive. I think she needs to go. They need to clear the deck. She needs to go, don't you think?
Oh, well, yeah, which is why she did that whole speech of, we have been lied to, haven't we? Me too. It's like, are you really the human marshmallow you're painting yourself out to be? Because if you really are this spongy and thick, maybe you shouldn't be producing telly. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah.
But, like, I just get the impression on the way it was so like, oh, my God, ITV's crumbling. What do we do? They're going to make some kind of hotline. You know that, don't you? But it's just going to be ITV staff ringing Holly, and she's going to be giving them advice on how to cope with this.
It's so sad. I think it's awful, and I love June Slater, her take on that. Are you OK? Yes, I got the top job. That would be a bit like me, but I would be honest about it and say, look, he had to go, we had to clear the decks. I can't have people like that behaving like that around me. I'm going to take over from now. Yes. If she'd done that, people would have gone, fair enough, Holly, all credit to you, instead of... Are you OK? In this insipid, insincere voice. I'm sorry, Holly. I almost called her Helly. Holly, but it's not good enough. And what do you think with Prince Harry? I mean...
Oh, my God.
Embarrassing.
I can't cringe this much, Harry. Like, if you were in Netflix... Wouldn't you be spitting chips right now, just going, mate, you're doing all the exciting stuff, but you're not filming anything of it. Like, at least film yourself going to court. Film this whole crusade against the media. But he has no evidence. He doesn't seem to have anything. He seems to literally be sat in the stand going, well, I'm pretty sure that, you know, because they listened in, because all the things that I put out there, they're in my autobiography, and then they're in the paper. And we're like, yes, Harry, that's because you published them, my dear. That's how publishing works. He's very basic. He is so basic. And you know what? He has got a lot of people now feeling sorry for him. How does he do it? He does it every time. People are empathising with Prince Harry. I was listening to Nigel Farage and he goes, you know what? Give him his dues. He actually, you know, he feels sorry for the guy. And I thought, that's what he does every time. You think it's like a proper, like, he knows he can emotionally manipulate people. Do you think it's like a younger sibling thing, maybe? Sort of, he's because he's the younger child, he's sort of, oh, I'm just trying my best, but everybody else is so big and clever and I can't possibly cope. Do you know what I noticed? He kept saying, this is for Meghan, I'm doing it for Meghan. But he's only really talking about Chelsea. And that, to me, sounds like the weirdest kind of breakup. It's like Chelsea said to him, oh, it's not you, Harry, because it couldn't possibly be you. It's the Daily Mail. That's why we broke up.
Chelsea doesn't want to be with him. I'm sorry, Harry. I don't want to break your bubble, but she didn't want to be. I mean, you know, it was a young love. It was wonderful. But that's what I do. If I'm breaking up with someone, I go, it's not you, it's me. It's not me, it's you. But I'm just saying that to make you feel better. Now, clear off for someone else. You know what I mean? Don't you do that, though?
So you don't blame the Daily Mail?
No, I don't.
It's not you, it's not me, it's clearly the press.
It's obviously, it's not you, it's everything else around you. It's not... Listen, if you love someone, you will literally, you know, you will go through hell on high water for that person. There is no way you'd go, oh, well, I suppose because it's in the Daily Mail or it's in something else. You can't see each other. You would
photograph me wearing shorts, Harry. This can't go on. Like, no.
Nah, look, Harry, understand when people do that, they're just trying to make you feel better.
Do you think he can't accept it because he's like royal and not being weird, but he's a royal, he's a privileged man? Do you think he can't accept that actually a woman went, nah, I'm good?
It's all with all my privilege. She doesn't want any of it. No, Harry, she doesn't. But I wouldn't say no. So if you do, you know, because I know how to spend money, I can tell you that now. What do you think about Sir Keir Starmer, though? He's rolled back on so many things. He rolled back on the whole tuition thing. He rolled back on the green policies. He's come up with this idea that he's gone along with to stop oil and is going to stop or not going to invest anymore in drilling for gas and oil, new gas and oil. I mean, it's just...
It's you know, it's quite a classic Labour sort of move, which is quite sad, really, because it was the one defining policy, his green poverty policy. Oh, sorry, green prosperity.
You mean, yeah, it's very good. I like that.
Wrong. His green prosperity policy, which was somehow going to cost us £28 billion. And Labour has got a history of getting the books wrong. They've got a history of financial ineptitude. So you'd think, like, as a comic and as a presenter, I bet you get, like, certain things on Twitter all the time, like, oh, what's it like being a woman, for example? Like, I get that all the time. So you get standard responses and you just become better because you don't want people to focus on things that are irrelevant to what you're doing. But they are known for being financially inept, and then they come out with this £28 billion from nowhere, and then they've just rolled it back. I mean, it is summer, so that's why he's got his flip-flops out.
Yeah, and he's doing it again. I'm afraid, unfortunately, I cannot trust anything that comes out of his mouth. I struggle with a man that cannot say what a woman is, even though he knows what one is. He just doesn't want to upset anybody and be honest about the fact that women and men are different. There are two sexes, male and female, not all this gender gobbledygook. I'm a woman. Are you a woman?
I'm definitely a woman, and I know that because my husband is a man, and there's definite differences between us.
Exactly. You can't just say, I'm a woman. I mean, I understand if someone is in the wrong body and feels that they are, but ultimately, your body is your body, so they can't be the wrong one. There is only one that you have. If you believe that your body should look different, listen, I believe that I should be a little bit thinner, a bit taller, have a smaller nose, and actually own my blonde hair. I paid for it, though.
Blonde hair is beautiful. You look great. I can't believe you want to be slimmer. That is sacrilege.
Really? You're thinner than me. You're tinier than me. What about Rishi Sunak? Now, he is saying what happened with the barges. He's thinking that the barges have put people off, and some of his policies are working, although we know that it's really windy, apparently, over the channel at the moment, and he's saying that there's less migration now.
I mean, all we want to know is what shoes are they wearing? I mean, if he's going to march around, he's tiny, Rishi, isn't he?
Really
I'm so sorry, but every time I see him, I'm like, how far away is he? And then you see, and oh no, he's right next to the camera. Well, at least he's got his big shoes on. I think it's a little bit early for him to say that he's cut the boats by 20%, don't you?
I'd say so.
It seems to have happened just like that. And if it can happen that quickly, why has it not happened before? Do you see what I mean? I can't imagine that the people smugglers have gone, guys, bad news. They've only gone and set up, like, basically ferries. So if you go to Britain, you'll be in Britain, but you'll be in a ferry, and everyone's got... And 20% of people have gone, We won't.
Well, you'll be in the Bibby Stockholm, which is 2 to a room. But if you're in a hotel where there's 4 to a room, if you just have a little protest, then they'll change it to 2. So that will put people off. And let's finish off with Boris. He's resigned.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like it was one of those relationships, you know, when, like, again, when you want to sort of get rid of them, but you make it so incompatible that they get rid of you. I feel like that's what the Conservative Party have done to Boris. I feel like they've just got him with enough microaggressions, you know, sort of left laminated bits around his office, like, can any ex-Prime Minister who's eating my cheese buy their own? And he's got to that point where he's gone, and he's run off.
I literally don't blame him. I don't blame him. But, you know...
They've made it an unsustainable environment in the Conservative Party for the man that was elected, which is very bizarre, because he was the one who won the election. And as you said earlier in your speech, Rishi Sunak is an unelected Prime Minister. And it's very well him running around saying, I'm the Prime Minister of the North, but you're barely the Prime Minister of anybody's vote, mate.
Yeah. Rishi, watch out. I think they've made themselves unelectable, unfortunately, in their behaviour.
Yeah.
Not just him, they've done it themselves. They've microaggressioned themselves out of power. Diana Spencer, thank you so much. When are you back? Are you on Headliners tonight?
I am. I'm on Headliners on Tuesday, the 15th of June.
Fantastic, Diane. Thank you so much. That is the fabulous Diana Spencer. That was Monk of the Week. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, on the way, Political Spotlight, Tory MP and Boris backer Brendan Clark-Smith will be joining me to discuss why he thinks the situation has been a parliamentary witch hunt. Now, that would even put the Banana Republic to shame. But first, it's climate control. Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to stop further oil and gas exploration in the North Sea in a bid to make Britain a green energy superpower. But is that a good idea? Stay tuned, that's on the way next.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and we've got so much still to come. Keep all your messages coming. gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at GBNews. Before the break, I was mucking the week, talking about the top stories. Let's have a look at what you've been saying. Nana, your guest is hilarious, and we need more of her. Her sarcasm, she's great, isn't it? She's to the point. Dan says, interesting how Angela Rayner describes Boris as a disgrace and then pretends the totally biased committee is well respected. What a joke. Janice says, hi, Nana, I'm loving your new wig. Thank you, darling. You could have said hair. I mean, you know, I know it is, you know it is, but yeah, I just feel a bit better with that. Janice, thank you so much. B, Nana, it says, Nana, it's so fantastic to tune in and have a say and have you say everything I'm thinking. A pleasure, my darling. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your brilliant messages. Let's talk about this whole business then, because, of course, we've got the business of Boris resigning. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has accused Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer of letting eco-zealots dictate the energy policy. This comes after it revealed that the Labour Party received £1.5 million from Dale Vince, who happens to be one of the biggest Just Stop Oil backers, although I've met him, and to be fair to him, and I'll give him his dues, he did say he would back any party that went along with any eco policy, so that is fair enough. Lots of people back different parties. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to stop further oil and gas exploration in the North Sea in a bid to make Britain a green energy superpower. But industry bosses have warned that this could lead to 45,000 job losses in the future. All of this after Green Party MP Caroline Lucas has said that she'll step down at the next general election to focus on activism. So I'm joined now by Just Stop Oil spokesperson Sean Irish. Sean, OK, talk to me, Sean. So this is, we spoke the other day. So let's just get your thoughts. And Sir Keir Starmer is saying that he is going wholeheartedly along with this prospect. In your view, I'm sure you're going to say this is the right way to go about it, but do you believe it's actually really sustainable?
Hi, Nana. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I'm from Just Stop Oil. We're demanding that the UK government end new fossil fuel licences. And yes, of course, ending new oil and gas licences is the way to go. That needs to be done as a just transition. We don't want a repeat of Margaret Thatcher in the coal mine, so we do need to make sure we do it responsibly.
But in what sort of time period, then, in your view, do you think that we will no longer need oil and gas, then? Because if we're going to stop drilling for it here, that will mean that we'll have to get it from other countries if we need it, because that's the way it is. So in the end, surely there'll be a greater carbon footprint going off to another country to get oil and gas from them instead of being self-sufficient.
Well, the UK as it stands currently isn't self-sufficient anyway because it's owned by private companies and it's sold to the highest bidder. So that doesn't really make a difference in the UK markets as it's not owned by the UK people. If we want to be independent and we want to have a green energy system, then we need to invest in green energy here in the UK, providing green jobs here in the UK.
So if you're saying that it's run by other countries, this oil and gas and the drilling, then what's your beef then? Because those other companies from other countries could carry on drilling. We could still use their oil and gas. Why would we stop that? Even if we had our own resources, we may need oil and gas. We'll need those fuels to do certain things. For example, things like in agriculture, things like making concrete. We'll just buy it from outside if we don't produce it ourselves.
So obviously the climate doesn't exist in a vacuum. We are needing the world to change as well. The UK is part of a global economy that needs to start shifting away from fossil fuel industries. You know, we've got the International Energy Agency saying it, the World Health Organization saying it, the UN saying it. For God's sake, the Pope is saying that we need to end new oil and gas. And as a good Catholic myself, you know, I'm going to have to listen to the Pope on this one.
Yeah, some of those organisations may well say it, but a lot of them are relying heavily on it as well. So a lot of them are talking with regard to hypocrisy. But listen, if you are genuine with this, then why are you not going to places like China and other countries that are heavy polluters, that are doing far more damage in that respect than we are? So we will be importing things from those countries who are producing and giving out loads of carbon dioxide and loads of greenhouse gases. Why is your campaign solely focused in this country?
Well, it might surprise you, but I live in this country, and that's why I target this country. There's a group in America called the Clear Climate Emergency. they target America. There's a group in Canada called Save All Growth. They target Canada. There's a group in Germany called Last Generation. They target Germany. Oddly enough, people target the countries that they live in. You know, the UK suffragettes were not demanding for the American government to grant them the right to vote. They were demanding that the UK government grant them the right to vote. It's not really an odd concept where you exist in the country you're in, and therefore that's where you take action.
Well, it is a bit when you're talking about a global climate. As you said, it's a global situation. And a lot of things that you're focusing on, other countries are far worse polluters. So my thing to you is we contribute about 1% of the CO2 in the environment. So even if we stop our little 1%, that's only 1%. What difference will that make?
So, Nana, it's a bit of a false dichotomy, that. So the UK produces 1% of global emissions domestically, and that's a very important word, domestically. So the UK government produces up to 16% of the world's global emissions once you take in our financial sector, once you add in travel, once you add in military, once you add in everything else. The UK is no longer an industrial heartland like it once was. Our industry is now in China, it's in India, it's in somewhere else. So you cannot say that the UK emissions don't exist just because we've moved them somewhere else.
Yeah, but you've just said that you're not...
for the UK.
Yeah, but you've just said that you're not going to do anything apart from in the UK. So if you're only focusing on the UK with our 1%, then what about the places that are higher? Even if we buy things from China where they have more emissions, those emissions will carry on.
No,
if you just hang on, I'll let you finish. No, I'll let you finish. Sorry, this is a two-way thing. So you wait till I finish and then you speak. Yeah, so my point is quite simple. You said you're not going to go to anywhere like China, and because, as you said correctly, there's different groups in different places that do their own thing. But you've also accepted that it is 1%, but then you said it's a false economy because we get things from other countries and we do flying and all these things. That's not going to stop, even if we stop all our whatever you want. So the 1% may end up being 0%, but the other percentages all around the world will continue, especially in places like China. So to be honest, I don't really understand why you think that you're going to make a difference with this.
Do you think two wrongs make a right?
Well, hang on a minute. So you're asking me a question. I've asked you a question. You answer my question, and then I can answer yours. You answer mine first.
Do you think the UK government has the right to subject millions of people to their deaths? Because 1% is still millions of people's lives that the UK government is messing with. Do you think two wrongs make a right? If China's not perfect, should UK not have to be perfect? It's a silly dichotomy. Why should we wait for every other country to be perfect before we even start to make the necessary changes?
Your sums are wrong. 1% isn't millions, by the way. And actually, I don't understand how you're catastrophizing us losing 1% of the emissions within this country, whereas you also admit that you're not going to protest in other countries that are the real polluters of it. So to be honest with you, Sean, I think that the fact that your campaign to do this will impoverish way more people seems somewhat obscure, especially the way you're protesting. Listen, Sean, I've got to go to the news, but we'll reconvene that. Sean Irish is from Just Stop Oil. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. On the way, imagine surviving cancer and then getting the jab to prevent it from coming back. Well, that could be the future. Stay tuned, find out about this groundbreaking study. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Hello there, it's 3:33. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister is facing calls for a general election following the announcement of a third Tory resignation. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty, says he's standing down with immediate effect, triggering another by-election. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson and ex-Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries announced their resignations yesterday. It comes as the Privileges Committee prepares to meet on Monday to conclude its Partygate inquiry, promising to publish its report promptly. A Syrian man accused of stabbing a young British girl and 3 other children in the French Alps has received preliminary charges of attempted murder. The group of children aged between 22 months and 3 years and 2 elderly adults were attacked on Thursday. The 31-year-old suspect has been remanded in custody. Prosecutors say the 3-year-old British girl will be able to leave hospital shortly. At least 4 military personnel involved in the Colonel's Review at Horse Guards Parade appeared to faint this afternoon because of the high temperatures. Prince William completed the final evaluation of the parade ahead of Trooping the Colour next Saturday. It comes as the Met Office confirmed UK temperatures reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 degrees being recorded at Heathrow. An extra £16 million of humanitarian aid is being sent to Ukraine following a dam explosion. The government says the money will be used to help some 32,000 people whose homes were flooded after the blast. Ukraine's blamed Russia for the attack, which Moscow denies. More on all of our stories on our website. That's gbnews.com. Now, it's back to Nana.
All right, still to come at 3:45, it's Political Spotlight. Tory MP and Boris backer Brendan Clark-Smith will be joining me to discuss why he thinks that this situation has been a parliamentary witch hunt that would have even put a banana republic to shame. Those are his words. And then imagine surviving cancer and then finding out that you can take a jab, like a vaccine, to prevent it from returning. That could be the future. Stay tuned, find out more about this groundbreaking trial. Don't go anywhere.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Hello, good afternoon. If you just joined me, where have you been? It's just coming up to 39 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, following the resignation of Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Tory MP and Boris ally Nigel Adams also resigned, triggering a third by-election within a 24-hour period. Of course, Boris Johnson was the former Prime Minister. In a statement, Boris claimed that he had been forced out of Parliament over Partygate and lambasted the Privileges Committee as a kangaroo court, which had already made a decision on his guilt before his investigation had begun. He also accused the committee chairwoman Harriet Harman as egregious bias. Now, Boris Johnson's resignation triggers a tricky by-election in his Uxbridge and South Ruislip constituency, where the Conservatives have a majority of just over 7,000. Let's go now to GB News' political reporter Catherine Foster, who's in Uxbridge for us. Now, Catherine, what are people being saying then? Are they upset at the fact that Boris has resigned with immediate effect, or do they seem quite glad?
Well, a real mix of views in Boris Johnson's constituency, as across the country. Some people love him, some people loathe him. One thing, though, this morning, I've been here since 5:30, we've talked to a lot of people. Spoke to a lady about 8:30. She goes, "Oh, sorry, I'm not from Uxbridge. I'm here to campaign for the Labour Party." So Labour, within 12 hours of Boris Johnson announcing that he was standing down in this seat, have already got people here, and they feel that they really can potentially take this seat. But let's have a listen to what some of his constituents make of this decision.
Liar. He deserves what he gets because he's a liar. What he done to this country when the COVID was on, terrible.
I've only been here a year. I've heard that he has been a good local MP, yes. Good Prime Minister. He went in at a different time, didn't he, with different goals. So mistakes were made. It shouldn't have been all on his shoulders. It's a government. It's not his. It's not a dictatorship.
Devastated. I love him.
He says it's a witch hunt. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit. Yeah, I've not really looked into it properly enough to know, to have an opinion. But yeah, I loved him as a character and I thought he was great.
So I also spoke to a lady who hadn't been able to see her husband during COVID for about 7 months when he was in a care home. Obviously, she was not sympathetic towards Boris Johnson, but another lady was actually crying. She said that he'd been an amazing MP for her personally. He had helped to stop her getting evicted. So a real mix of opinions. But certainly, this is becoming an absolute nightmare for the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He, of course, waved through Boris Johnson's resignation honours list only late yesterday afternoon. That was an attempt, if you like, to try to smooth the waters. Of course, there's been huge amounts of bad blood between them. But what in fact has happened, given that Boris Johnson saw that he was going to be given 10-day suspension, decided he didn't want to fight that battle and he was going to go. Now, Nadine Dorries hasn't got a peerage. She's going as well. Nigel Adams hasn't got a peerage. He's going too. So Rishi Sunak now faces 3 very difficult by-election and a Conservative Party very publicly washing its dirty linen in public once again.
Catherine, thank you very much. That's Catherine Foster. She is our reporter out there in Uxbridge. Well, I mean, that will carry on unravelling. It seems the Tory party want to unravel themselves. But now this is something that I think is absolutely incredible, and I wanted to share it with you. I read about it and wanted to find out more. It's all about an early trial of 25 participants who now this has shown that a cancer jab has lowered the risk of relapse in 100% of the patients. So that is the cancer actually returning. And that is the big deal with cancer. They managed to remove it, and then unfortunately there are some cells that are dormant that remain hidden, and they don't manage to catch them all, which is why often the cancer recurs. Secondary cancer is usually the thing that kills people because it goes all over the body or to different parts, and then it's difficult to try and get rid of. Now, all of those who took part in the study had their tumours surgically removed, but after testing still had cancer markers present in their blood. So this is that secondary potential for cancer to spread. This jab is designed to help with the most deadly cancers, including that of pancreatic cancer and colon cancer. And all this as a woman who received the world's first breast cancer vaccine back in 2020. 2021 says that she has felt wonderful ever since. So that's 2 jabs, one for the breast cancer and the other one to stop secondary cancers returning. So with scientists claiming that they're on track to get a jab on the market within 5 years, this is incredible news. Let's discuss this with virologist and Professor of Molecular Oncology at the University of Warwick, Professor Lawrence Young. Now, Lawrence, thank you so much for joining me. It sounds phenomenal. Something for people who have a certain type of cancer, which is breast cancer, which is ultimately like a vaccine, and something for people who have already had the cancer. Let's talk about should we start with the jab, which sort of protects people from recurring cancers? Is that jab specifically for certain types of cancer, or is that for all types of cancer, or is that an impossible ask?
I think it's a bit of an impossible ask. Having said that, we're seeing this revolution in new ways of stimulating the body's immune system to fight cancer. That particular trial targets a change that occurs quite commonly in a number of different cancers during the development of the tumour, particularly in colorectal cancer and pancreatic cancer, which has a terrible sort of very, very poor survival. So what we're seeing in these 25 patients, it's early days, small number of patients. And as you said earlier, Nana, that what happens, of course, is even after you've had your tumour removed, there are always a few tumour cells hanging around. And that's why often patients have chemotherapy, radiotherapy after having surgery. But what this latest data suggests is that you can really boost the body's immune system to fight the cancer cells and prevent them from recurring. And that's a major, major benefit. And also means that you won't necessarily have to give patients all those horrible, nasty chemotherapeutic drugs in the future.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What about people with certain, say, someone with like an autoimmune condition? Would that jab be suitable for them as well? Certainly, there's certain types where, for example, lupus, where you have cytokine storms and things like that. Will a jab like that be effective for patients like that? And are they looking at that?
Yes, they are, because of course what you've always got to balance when you're stimulating the body's immune system is the positive side from the negative side. So this is a vaccine, but it's a therapeutic vaccine for cancer. The issue is if you vaccinate and stimulate an immune response, you want to be able to control that immune response so it doesn't fight the rest of your body, it only fights the cancer cells. So you have to target, and what's interesting with these types of vaccines is they're very specific and will only target the cancer cells and not cause any damage in terms of autoimmunity anywhere else. But they're still in development. It's still early days. The exciting thing, however, is that we're seeing so many of these new types of vaccines as we learn more about the body's immune system. And some of it's based on the development of new vaccines that have been speeded up because of COVID, like the mRNA vaccine, for instance. Is a very nice trial that's just been published looking at using mRNA vaccines for patients with advanced melanoma. And that, again, is looking very, very exciting. So again, post-surgery, a boost to the body's immune system to prevent the tumour from recurring.
That's what I was going to ask you next, actually, whether the mRNA vaccines, there's been a lot of controversy about them, people, saying, oh, they continue to make the spike protein and things like that. I mean, I don't know what the long-term effect of an mRNA vaccine is, but I was going to ask you whether that has become one of the things that has helped to push this forward. Do you think that this is really a huge game changer now with the way we deal with cancer?
Yeah, it's beginning to be. And this revolution has taken place over a number of years. In 2018, the Nobel Prize for Medicine was awarded to 2 scientists who developed new approaches to unleashing the body's immune response against cancer by blocking some of the negative regulators of the body's immune system. And if you add those with cancer vaccines, we're starting to see some really exciting developments now. And some of that treatment is becoming standard now. So these immune approaches, so-called immune checkpoint inhibitors, are being used as a standard for treating patients with certain cancers like kidney cancer and melanoma, the most aggressive form of skin cancer. So what we can see is this way of adding into the system, if you like, of all the different therapies we use, something that really is going to be much more effective and prevent cancer from recurring. The big question is, could you move this into the preventive? Could you actually start to give people some of these vaccines in high-risk groups to prevent them developing cancer? For those women, for instance, with inherited predisposition to breast cancer, would it be possible to use some of these vaccines to prevent them developing the cancer in the first place?
It would be really,
that's really exciting.
Really exciting. And as I understand it, in a couple of years' time, it potentially could be out there in the market. If people want to find out from the study, listen, I've got about literally 10 seconds, Lawrence. Do you know where people could find out more about this study, if there is anywhere at the moment?
Yeah, the best way to find out actually is go to the websites of the different companies. If you put a search in and look at some of the newspapers that have published the information, you'll see the name of the company. If you go into the company, you'll find all the data on the early trials of these new approaches.
Thank you, Lawrence. Really good to talk to you. That's Professor Lawrence Young. He's there in oncology at the University of Warwick. I'll see if I can get you some of those details as well. But look, moving on, though, it's time for my political spotlight. And today it's Tory MP Brendan Clark-Smith. Now, Brendan first got elected back in 2019, winning a very healthy majority of over 14,000 in the constituency of Bassett Law. And now, the Tory MP, who was born in Nottingham, grew up on a council estate in Clifton and became a local councillor for the area. Brendan then went on to become a teacher, where he taught in the UK, Norway, Romania, and also became the head of international school. He's known to be a big Boris supporter and said that the parliamentary witch hunt of the former Prime Minister could put a banana republic to shame. I'm delighted to say the Conservative MP Brendan Clark-Smith joins me now. Brendan, thank you so much for joining me. First of all, I've got to get straight into it. How do you feel about the news with regard to Boris Johnson? He has resigned as an MP.
I'm very, very sad to see him go. Very angry, of course, as I'm sure many of the people who voted for us are as well. I thought he did a tremendous job as Prime Minister. Of course, I'm not going to go through cliches about getting Brexit done and everything else, but this is a man who's an absolute giant, not just in British politics, but around the world. And it's somebody who delivered something which, sadly, Parliament couldn't do between 2015 and 17, and that was respect the referendum result. So I do hope the legacy that is left behind is not going to be wasted. But certainly as a colleague, I'm very, very disappointed to see him go, and especially in the manner that he has.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel Adams has also decided to get out of politics in his respect, as well as an MP. What do you think this could potentially become a kind of domino effect with other politicians deciding they're not liking the look of how politics is shaping up?
Well, I was Nigel's PPS for 6 months, so working under him was absolutely fantastic. He's really great minister at what he did. He's a brilliant mentor, and he's a good friend as well. And the thing is with Nigel, it was never about him personally. It was always about the bigger picture and working towards that. So Nigel's a very good man. I think you need more people like that in politics. And it's very sad to see him go. And I'd say the same about Nadine Dorries. You know, really what we're trying to push to people, they're both working class people who've done very well for themselves, both dying-the-wall Conservatives and making it to the very top, of course. And it's that kind of story, that kind of success that inspired a lot of people to vote for us. So when we see these people leaving Parliament, it's not a great sign for us, because these are people that we need. These are people we're very proud of.
So, seeing this now, does that put you off? Because why did you initially get into politics?
Well, I think I looked at my local community and I looked at what made it better. My parents bought their own home. As I said, I come from what used to be the biggest council estate in Europe at the time when it was built there. And I was very black and white, I suppose, about giving people more choices in life, the state backing off, really. And I think Margaret Thatcher, what she achieved there, she actually changed the lives of a lot of people and improved this country for the better. And then since then, we've obviously carried on with that. I've always been a Conservative. It's 25 years now. And in very similar circumstances, I was elected in the Red Wall. And a lot of people across the country for the very first time voted Conservative. And Boris Johnson was a huge part of that, really. And they feel obviously very disappointed, first of all, with what happened with the referendum result, that we needed Boris to come in really and get that majority to force it through Parliament as it is. And then once again, we're now seeing a situation where people elect their own MPs. The people are sovereign for me. It should be the people who decide who their MPs are. We shouldn't be deciding it between ourselves in Westminster. I think it's a very unhealthy situation where MPs are deciding on the fate of other MPs.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it as well, to me, it looks like the Tory party has squandered their majority. The infighting has put us, me, general public, watching this whole ridiculous farce fall apart. Do you think there's any hope for the Conservative Party now?
I think there is, and I still think there's time. There's 18 months to go. I think the main thing is that we really need to focus on on that goal in the general election and getting a Conservative majority government again. Because if we don't, the alternative is unthinkable, really. We've seen what Labour are planning to do. In fact, what they plan to do, they U-turn on 5 minutes later, and nobody's actually sure what they really stand for. But I don't think it's enough simply to say that it'll actually be worse if we have a Labour government. We need to actually give people a reason to vote for us as well, and especially those people who voted for us for the first time in 2019, we need to hold on to those. So we've got 18 months to go. We've got to get our skates on, and we've really got to deliver.
And of course, Boris going, I mean, in my view, it did look like a witch hunt. It was just a spectacle, really. Anybody watching from the outside, even if you didn't like him, would have seen this as, I mean, it was just like constant Partygate. We had Wallpapergate, Animalgate, anything they could get him down for, they did. Do you think he'll return to politics after being put through all of that?
Well, I've said exactly the same thing. As some say it's all about Partygate. It's not really. The establishment have been out to get Boris Johnson a very long time. As you said, if it wasn't that, it was wallpaper or it's something else, or they'll drag up any excuse, really. And people really, a lot of them just detested Boris Johnson because he actually took away from them what they thought was their God-given right to govern the country however they thought, regardless of what the will of the people actually was. And they were out to get him, of course. Any opportunity that was there, they seized on. But of course, Boris Johnson, he's shown over his career, of course, he is the king of comebacks, the king of reinventing himself, really. And I'm sure it's not the last of Boris Johnson, put it this way.
Do you reckon there was a bit more to it than that as well? Not just getting rid of him, but more of a Remainer plot, some coup d'etat to get us back into the EU?
Well, that does worry me, certainly. I mean, when you're certainly seeing Michel Barnier on television saying, we're welcome to rejoin, and you look at some of the comments that are made by the opposition, you hear about coalitions, you hear about votes at 16 and giving the right to vote in general elections to EU citizens. And you worry, really, is this the last time we're going to see a Conservative majority government? Are we going to get a system of PR? Are we going to get these endless coalitions and backroom deals all the time? And this is what's at stake. And this is why, really, we've got to fight back against these people now, Nana.
If we would do, Brendan Clark-Smith, thank you so much for joining me. Really good. That is, of course, Brendan Clark-Smith. He's been my political spotlight. He's a Conservative MP for Bassett Law. Stay tuned with me. I'm going to give you my take on the takedown of Boris Johnson. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Keep them coming. gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at GBNews. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. Loads more still to come in the next hour.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. It's 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Hi there, it's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon to you. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. The Prime Minister is facing calls for a general election following the announcement of a third Tory resignation. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty, says he's standing down with immediate effect, triggering another by-election. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson and ex-Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries announced their resignations yesterday. It comes as the Partygate panel prepares to meet on Monday to conclude its inquiry into whether Boris Johnson misled Parliament. It's promised to publish its report promptly. A shadow deputy leader, Angela Rayner, says it's clear Johnson lied.
Boris Johnson has shown himself to be a coward once more. You know, he's not held his hands up to and taken responsibility as he should do. The Privileges Committee, a well-respected committee that are made up majority of Tory MPs, and he's just tried to trash them and say, I've got no responsibility, I've done nothing wrong. He's a man that can never hold his hands up to what he's done, and I think it's an absolute disgrace. And, you know, good riddance. He shouldn't have been in Parliament in the first place.
Well, there are mixed feelings about Boris Johnson's resignation in his constituency.
He's actually done a good thing for the constituency in resigning, because I think it opens it for somebody that can come in and do a better job for us.
I wouldn't say I'm pleased. I think, isn't government more than one man? Shouldn't we be doing more than just going after individuals?
I loved him as a character and I thought he was great, so it's sad.
Well, prosecutors say the British girl stabbed in a knife attack in the French Alps will be able to leave hospital in the next few days. 3-year-old Etty was on holiday with her parents when she was attacked at a park in the town of Annecy, along with 3 other children and 2 elderly adults. A 31-year-old Syrian refugee has been charged with attempted murder and has been remanded in custody. He'll appear in court today. At least 4 troops fainted in the heat during the Colonel's Review in central London. Thousands of people were at Horse Guards Parade watching as Prince William assessed the event ahead of trooping the colour next Saturday. He later acknowledged the difficult conditions and paid tribute to those who took part. The Met Office has confirmed temperatures in the UK have reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 being recorded at Heathrow. Florida's governor has criticised the indictment of Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis says it smacks of double standards, despite being Trump's main rival to be the Republican nominee for next year's presidential election. Now, he claims nothing's been done about Hillary Clinton's email controversy when she was Secretary of State. Trump is facing 37 criminal charges related to mishandling classified documents and keeping them in various rooms in his Florida home. A former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administration, Steve Gill, told GB News it's politically motivated.
You have President Biden, who had documents as vice president and U.S. senator stashed in his garage with his Corvette and at the University of Pennsylvania and other locations around the country. Hillary Clinton destroyed thousands of documents, including bashing phones that were under subpoena. So I think what we're seeing is this horrific third world type prosecution of a political opponent by the Biden administration. And I think most Americans will see through this.
An extra £16 million of humanitarian aid is being sent to Ukraine following the collapse of a dam. The government says the money will be used to help around 32,000 people in the Kherson region whose homes were flooded after the blast. Ukraine's blamed Russia for the attack, which Moscow has denied. 4 Colombian children have been rescued more than 5 weeks after their plane crashed in a jungle. The siblings, aged 13, 9, 4 and 1, were found by the military not too far from the crash site. They've been taken to a hospital for specialist medical care. Now, last month, the president wrongly announced they had been found. He's now described this latest discovery as a joy for the whole country. The children's mother, pilot and co-pilot, though, died in the crash. Manchester City are hoping for a big win tonight in the UEFA Champions League final. They're taking on Inter Milan in Istanbul. If City win, well, they'll become just the second team in the UK, that is, to win all 3 competitions in one season, having already taken the Premier League and the FA Cup. And this is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, I'm calling this one Stitched Up. After serving as an MP for Uxbridge and South Ruislip for 15 years, Boris Johnson delivered his resignation speech yesterday. He couldn't have been more eloquent. No one was spared. He blamed the kangaroo court of the Privileges Committee. Ramona Harriet Harman, former Labour deputy leader, on her high horse, led the charge. This is the woman who loved the EU so much that when she was shown the faces of the EU's 7 top officials, she asked, who are they? Whilst Harriet Harman and her kangaroo court may think they've won, who knows? With Nadine Dorris gone and now Tory MP Nigel Adams, perhaps Boris may step in and take one of their seats, although who would be bothered? His own party were clearly ungrateful of his leadership, despite delivering them an 80-seat majority, which they squandered, squabbling amongst themselves, assisting the established media and deposing of him over COVID and cake. I mean, it was like watching a very bad version of an older People's Apprentice. Boris also blamed Tory MPs who sided with the Labour Party, Liberal Democrats and the SNP to do whatever they can, in his words, to remove me from Parliament. I'm inclined to agree with him, but I'd also add the established media in there, and it pretty much started the moment he moved into number 10. Boris came in on the mantra of getting Brexit done. We'd been in an interminable paralysis as a nation under Theresa May. Parliament had been squabbling for the best part of 3 years, not happy with the public's decision to leave the EU, which I suspect went against many of their vested interests. We had Wallpapergate. The established media went on and on and on about the cost of decorating number 10 and where Boris got the money from. Perhaps Theresa May, the previous incumbent, wasn't happy with Carrie referring to her decor as a John Lewis furniture nightmare. There was a pandemic in between, which Boris was initially praised for. There was Animalgate after the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Then, of course, we had the aftermath of the pandemic, the COVID inquiry, where a load of people now equipped with hindsight looking for someone to blame, and the established media joined in. Civil servants like the supposedly impartial psycho Sue Gray, who headed up the COVID inquiry, She's now going to join the Labour Party as Chief of Staff to Sir Keir Starmer. Keir struggled to answer whether he made contact with her during the inquiry. I mean, doesn't that sound a bit fishy to you? Smells like a stitch-up to me. And now we've got Rishi Sunak doing his best with his unconservative, high-tax policies. And what have we got to look forward to if Sir Keir takes control? I mean, he's already backtracked on his plans for free movement, tuition fees and a green tax, and his latest ban on oil and gas, which hasn't gone down well, is partly pretty much saying that he'll follow the same policies as the Tories, but will just do things better. That's just not good enough. And if you think this country is skint now, cast your mind back to Labour's Liam Byrne, Chief Secretary to the Treasury under Gordon Brown. When he left the Tories, he left a note. When he left a note for the Tory party saying, "I'm afraid there's no money left." Boris said it was sad to be leaving Parliament, at least for now. Boris, go and make a load of money, enjoy your wonderful new family, and give your loyalty to those who will appreciate it. Was walking away the smartest move? I think it was. The Privileges report is pretty much dead in the water now. Boris has effectively wiped the slate clean. And with others following, like Tory MP Nigel Adams, could there be a domino effect triggering a general election? Well, let's hope not. The Tory party is like Brexit in name only, and unless they return to Conservative values now, they're dead in the water. So it's just coming up to 10 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. Before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Now, in his resignation statement, Boris described the Privileges Committee as the very definition of a kangaroo court and claimed most members expressed deeply prejudicial remarks. Johnson believes that this is part of a Remainer coup, intent on doing everything to oust him. But do you agree? Then stay tuned at 4:50. It's Royal Roundup time. Royal biographer Angela 11. We're live in the studio to give us the latest from behind the palace walls, including Prince Harry's week of turmoil, oh God, or hilarity, after taking the witness stand during a court case over phone hacking.
You think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011, the time period that makes up your claim against MGM?
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
Oh, that's so funny! Then stay tuned at 5. It's this week's difficult conversation. Well, if you think it's funny watching that, could you imagine how funny it was in the courtroom? Katie Price's ex-fiancé, Chris Boyson, will be live in the studio joining me to discuss how the power of sport saved his life. You will not want to miss that. That's on the way in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at gbnews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Lizzie Cundy, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
We've got similar hair.
We have actually. I'm loving the new hair.
Thank you. I kind of modelled it on yours.
Thank you. Beautiful, darling.
She's a style icon, if I can't believe that.
And I'm very lucky to be here because they closed the M3.
Did they?
And no trains are working. You know what it's like? Bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
Everything goes to pot.
Well, I love the way they've called this, what does it say, heat warning. It used to be a heat wave, now it's a heat warning.
Yes.
We would have called that summer, and we couldn't have believed that it had come early for most of us, you know what I mean? And now there's some sort of, oh my gosh, 30 degrees, I'm so grateful. No more heating, no more electricity, no more gas, electricity, central heating on.
Yeah.
I'm saving the planet.
I think the heat wave was when it was like over an extended period of time. Like this,
Well,
this is like arrived like here.
Yeah, but it will be.
Now they're saying they've got to give us warnings of what to do when the sun's out. I mean, it's...
Get out there, put your sunblock on, enjoy, drink lots of water.
Exactly, enjoy it.
Pina coladas.
Yes.
And watch TV News if it's too hot. Come indoors and watch
Exactly. Watch us with the doors open.
So how do you feel, Lizzie? How do you feel about this whole thing? Boris has finally gone. I feel relieved for him, actually, because I'm sick and tired of watching this awful thing play out. But what's your...
Well, I said this many months ago, actually. This is a kangaroo court, and that's very unkind to kangaroos. I knew as soon as Harriet Harman was the chair, Boris was doomed.
Yeah.
What was the point? I would have done the same thing of Boris and hopped out of there. There's no point. They're all against him. He didn't have any supporters there. They all didn't want Brexit. It's a Brexit witch hunt. And I had to have a kind of smile today. I saw on the front pages there was Trump and there was Boris, two political giants, both saying it was a witch hunt. You know, it is unbelievable. But Boris will be back. He'll be like the ticking time bomb behind Rishi. And you wait. He's hinted a few times he'll be back, and we'll see him again.
Do you think? I don't think so. I think he might be just saying that to play the game. But then, if you look at it, as you mentioned, Trump, feels like there's a sort of... When we have a politician who breaks the mould, it seems like they want to force you back into the mould. We're not having that. You can't be different. We can't... No. But
you can't deny... boxes and boxes of classified information in the shower and in various places.
What about Joe Biden? Joe Biden's been raided.
There was like maybe 50 documents. There were 50 documents in the garage in a box. It's all the same. And they asked Trump time and time again to make sure he had given up the ball, and he lied constantly.
But what about the others? No. We're just giving you some names. You've dismissed Joe Biden. What about the Hunter Biden's laptop? I mean, there's all this stuff.
But these have all been disproven already.
No, they haven't.
The point is, you can see the documents in the photos with Trump. You can see the documents in the photos. He had nuclear codes in the bathroom.
But
that's. I mean, anyone can say that's. But whether you're left or right, or support Trump or not support Trump, if no one is above the law.
No. But that's not the point there, because the others, if that is even true, which I doubt very much, all of that is true. But the others have all done bad things as well, and if not worse, a lot of them. And they did not. This didn't happen to them. This has been another witch hunt. It seems politicians in this world will be witch hunted.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't.
And with Trump and with Boris, they are two political giants.
I think they're very different beasts indeed. And I think Boris will have, like you said in your monologue, he will spend a good amount of time making some money. I've spent time personally with Carrie Johnson, and she's super lovely, and I think they'll have a great time. But honestly, in this situation, who needs enemies when you've got the Tory party as your mates?
God,
I mean, more. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just embarrassing once again. At the top, the Tories are not fit to govern. I mean, and then you've got Boris's imps and acolytes Nadine Dorries and Nigel Adams going oh, Nadine can't have a peerage, so she bins off as well. And they know that all three of these by-elections will probably be a loss for the Conservative Party. So they obviously don't care about the party or particularly the country. It's all about themselves.
Well, perhaps they don't care about it now after they've watched it backstab itself, and they're probably thinking, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when there was a collective responsibility, where ministers worked together. But now what we're seeing is very individual politicians who are in there for their own egos, looking for power, or like Rishi Sunak. I'm going to get power. Let's get rid of Boris.
But again, he wasn't even voted in as an MP guest of yours said earlier on.
Boris has been clever here. This is a direct attack on Rishi and on his authority. Now, Boris is free now to talk. He can do his books. He can even do Boris the movie of what really happened. That's what I want to star
I can see the opening shot, him on a zip wire.
Oh my God!
Or on that tractor.
But we've already had. Wasn't it Kenneth Branagh that played Boris in the Channel 4 mini-series?
Yeah, well, but I feel this is like a rallying cry to all those disillusioned Conservatives who are now so disillusioned, like myself, with the Tory party. And I think Rishi should be very worried. Really.
So do you agree with calls for a general election then?
Well, listen, I don't think it makes a difference whether they call one now or later. I'd rather not the disruption, to be honest. I'd like to see some of these policies go through. I'm actually sick to my back teeth of when they come up with something, then they start going, oh, let's vote somebody else, and we don't like what he said. He said something that wasn't right. Let's get rid of him. So then in the end, we end up with a situation like we've had, 15... how many Home Secretaries have we had? We're on eight Home Secretaries.
15 Prime Ministers in the last couple of weeks.
It's housing ministers.
Yeah.
So nothing gets done. So every time they get a job to to do. They go, oh, let's have an election, or let's get rid of somebody. He said that, she said this. Yeah. Nobody does anything, and they continue to take the money.
There's no communication.
I want to see this. I want the Conservatives to see the term through, get on with the jobs, and then we'll decide who should come in next.
But I have to say, I've met many that now say, wow, I wish Boris was back. They miss his way, his maverick way, and I much prefer him to the boring forensic accountant of Rishi and Jeremy Hunt, who I'm afraid to say Rishi should be very worried, and this is an attack on him.
But do you think he could actually salvage the ship? I mean, if you look at what he's done, I mean, he claims that the boats are stopping coming potentially because of the Bibi Stockholm.
I think Rishi has done a good job in, you know, stabilising the government somewhat, but then obviously things like, and then maybe this whole situation with Boris wasn't really necessary because again it's made it look like the Tories don't know their arse from their elbow.
I'm
Excuse me for saying arse.
They
but like it's
excuse him for saying it a second time.
But obviously, you know, this is another blow for Boris, and he's going out, you know, gnashing and thrashing and trying to take other people down with him as well.
He's not. All he's done.
And blame it on a kangaroo court, blame it on everybody else, and not taking responsibility for his own actions.
He's always idolised, hasn't he, Winston Churchill, and he's going to be king of the comeback. So is Boris. You just wait and see. You will see Boris come back really strong.
More comebacks than Cher.
No, it's the end for Rishi, I'm afraid. It really is the end for Rishi, and he'll be very scared today because Boris is free to talk.
Yeah, but,
I don't think he wouldn't want to bring down. He wouldn't want to bring down the Tory government.
No, but they're doing it. He doesn't.
Who knows? He might start his own new right-wing party.
They don't need any help bringing themselves down. They don't need any help at all. We could just sit back and let them do it. That's what Keir Starmer has done. That's why Keir Starmer's in the place that he's now. I'm actually very, very embarrassed by the politicians that I'm seeing before me. I'm embarrassed about the Labour Party as well. Lorena doesn't get a free rein either. You know, when she called people scum and that, it's like, oh no, it's so low grade. This is not how politicians should be conducting themselves.
Well, we've got a bad government, and the opposition is pitiful. I mean, he doesn't even know what a woman is. It's really sad.
At least I think they are a united front. At the very least, you've got to give them a united front. But whereas obviously, like, you know, here we are in a position again. We were talking about the embarrassment of the top of the Tory party, and I agree with you. It's shameful that all Labour have had to do is sit back and just, you know, rub their hands in glee as they self-combust.
People are in political wilderness at the minute because the Tories aren't really Tory and the Labour aren't really Labour.
And that's that. Lizzie Cundy, last word there. Oh, there you have it. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Welcome on board if you've just tuned in. Still to come at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. Katie Price's ex-fiancé Chris Boyston will be joining me to discuss how the power of sport saved his life. Stay tuned. But coming up next, the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? That is on the way. Send me your thoughts as ever. GBViews at gbnews.com. Tell me what you think. Tweet me at GBNews. There's a poll up right now asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Cast your vote now.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
The thousands of
This is coming up to 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. If you're hearing a little snigger there, that is Sam Dowler. He said that he was ripped before he went to America. Was it Australia?
Australia.
And I just pointed out that no, he wasn't. We all saw him. Well, before the break, we were discussing Boris Johnson and his resignation. Let's see what you've been saying. James says, hi, Nana, time for Boris to step back, create a new party with people he can work with, sing off the same sheet and same goals. I agree with you. I think that might be the way to go. Trevor says, hi, Nana. I believe the MPs on all sides of the House have conspired to get him out. The Remainers have got the idea that they can now reverse Brexit. Teresa says, love watching Nana on Saturday afternoon. She's absolutely brilliant. She says it as she sees it. And Nana, your hair looks amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Because I was a bit nervous at the beginning of my show. I was like, oh, I don't know. I thought I looked a bit like Vincent out of Beauty and the Beast, if you've ever seen that. It's this creature that sort of travels on top of tube trains. Anyway, it was another time. Some of you may have seen that. But right now it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, do you believe Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Now, following the resignation of the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Tory MP and Boris ally Nigel Adams has also resigned, triggering a third by-election within a 24-hour period. Now, Boris Johnson, who won 2 terms as Mayor of London, as well as winning an 80-seat majority in Parliament, dramatically resigned with immediate effect late last night. Now, some MPs would argue that Johnson reshaped the political landscape by rolling out the hugely successful vaccine scheme and leading Europe's response to the war in Ukraine. In his resignation statement, the blonde-haired bombshell, no, not me, took aim at the Privileges Committee, describing them as the very definition of a kangaroo court, and claimed most members expressed deeply prejudicial remarks before any evidence was given, which is true. Many see this as a Remainer coup, where globalist Ramonas within the Tory party, the opposition and the media simply cannot contend with the idea that Brexit has happened. Others would argue that Boris broke the rules during the pandemic at a time when he should have been leading the country by example. So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Joining me to discuss this is Dennis McShane, former Minister for Europe, Anne Widdecombe, a member of Reform UK, and Tory Minister Edwina Currie, former Conservative MP, and Reem Ibrahim, Communications Officer at the IEA. I'm going to start with you, Anne Widdecombe. What's your thoughts on what's happened?
Well, I would agree with Boris's criticism of the court. The fact is that Harriet Harman and others, unlike one of their colleagues who did recuse himself, Chris Bryant, because he knew that he had made public statements, these people had already made public statements about Boris's guilt, and you would never have an ordinary court of law operating that way. So I do think he's right that it was a kangaroo court. Was it a Remainer coup? I'm sure that Remainers have played their part throughout in persecuting Boris, but I don't think it was a specifically Remainer coup. I think it was a bunch of MPs who were deeply prejudiced and indeed who had said so right from the get-go.
Dennis McShane.
On the Committee of Privileges, its prominent Tory member is Sir Bernard Jenkin. I've known Bernard for 25 years and will remember him. He was the most devout, pro-Brexit, anti-European Tory MP, sensible, intelligent, since day one. I'm sorry, it was a Tory majority on that committee that voted for him to go. It was a Tory majority in the House of Commons that last year voted for him to go, with Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid plunging the daggers into his back or his front. I don't know which way round it was. And Mr Johnson knows if he goes back to the House of Commons with a giant Tory majority he brought into the House of Commons, they will vote him out. So he's quit, I'm afraid, before it was all done to him. This is absolute nonsense. I mean, these are pro-Brexit Tories who've said, Boris, please, you've had a great time in politics, you've made stacks of money, you've had lots and lots of girlfriends and wives, just go away.
I doubt they said all that, Dennis, don't be silly. Let's go to Edwina Curry.
No, I don't think it was any kind of kangaroo court or any kind of conspiracy. Boris was convicted by his own words, out of his own mouth. You know, Boris is rather like Donald Trump and Prince Harry. They all have a slightly queasy relationship with the truth, Nana. Let's put it as delicately as that. Their truth is their version of events. Boris would still be there with his 80-seat majority, with Brexit done and all the glory and that comes from that and everything else, if he had actually said, even once in number 10, no parties. We cannot stand here and tell the nation what to do and that they can't have parties and they can't socialise, and then we do it because, you know, sooner or later we'll get caught. God is watching. And he didn't do that, and he's then been held up for actually telling lies about it to the House of Commons. He was also involved with Owen Paterson scandal. He was involved with the Chris Pincher scandal, and he's lied about those. And you can't go on doing that, Nana. You couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You can't keep telling lies and expecting people to accept your version of events. It doesn't work like that. And sooner or later, you're out.
But what if you don't think you're lying? So, for example, he didn't think he was lying with the rules. Listen, I broke the rules. I thought I was doing the right thing. It turns out that my support bubble had enlarged somewhat and people weren't really allowed in it. I mean, some of the things that he's been accused of were pretty unfair. I'm going to get Reem in and then I'm going to come back to you, Edwina. Reem.
Yeah, we all got very upset about being told what we could and couldn't do during lockdown, all of us, for ages. And it really meant that actually the people at the top needed to err on the side of caution. You know, rather than taking chances, it had to be, we're all strong, healthy people. We are not going to party, not least because you know what? That photo you're taking is going to get out and it ain't going to look good.
Let's get Reem in because I want to hear what she has to say. Reem.
I think fundamentally we've got to be, not incredibly conspiratorial about a lot of these issues. I mean, we know that Johnson misled the House. He fundamentally did. And we know that he did break the rules. There is absolutely no way that he wasn't aware of the fact that he was breaking the rules. That was the government that created those rules. We also know that the lockdowns didn't necessarily have the same kind of evidence for them. I mean, the Institute of Economic Affairs published a paper this week that found that those countries like Sweden that actually didn't lock down had mortality rates of just 3.2% higher. So really we saw a lot of these lockdowns weren't actually that effective. They were ineffective and they failed to reduce mortality significantly. And now we've got Boris Johnson here claiming as though he did nothing wrong. He misled the House, and I think it's time for him to accept his defeat.
Interesting that you bring in comparisons with people like Sweden. I don't think you can really compare them. First of all, they probably haven't got such an obese population as we have. I think there are lots of other factors that come into play. I find it interesting that people will make that comparison. I don't quite think that there's way more factors that would have affected that. Anne Widdecombe.
Well, first of all, I don't believe that he knowingly misled the House. That is the charge. That he misled the House. He said wrong things. Yeah, I don't dispute that at all, nor does he. But what he said was that there was no evidence that he did it knowingly or recklessly. And he said, and don't forget that after a police investigation...
Of course he knew.
Let me finish. I only blame him for one event, not all the others. And the fact is that if people were meeting for work purposes, and instead of meeting with a file in their hand, they met with a bit of cake in their hand, I cannot get excited about that, and that will have been happening all up and down the country. People working together thought that was okay.
Well, listen, I've got 10 seconds. I've got 10 seconds. I'm going to give those 10 seconds to you, Dennis McShane. 10 seconds.
You send out to Tesco's to bring in wheelie suitcases full of booze to hand out. For heaven's sake, Anne, of course he knew what he was doing, but that's not the point. You and I went the Tories have got rid of Johnson, and none of us can really go against. For once, I'm voting with the Brexit Tories. He's not done Brexit. He's not been a successful Prime Minister.
Okay. Fine. All right. OK, so all of you think that it's not a kangaroo court, then. You think that it's fair enough, and that's the way it goes. Thank you very much, Dennis McShane, former Minister for Europe, Anne Widdecombe, member of Reform UK, and former Tory Minister Edwina Currie, former Conservative MP, and Reem Ibrahim, Conservative commentator. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, do you believe Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel of broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Downer. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It is 4:34. Aaron Armstrong here in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister's facing calls for a general election, as you've been hearing, following the announcement of a third Tory resignation. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty in North Yorkshire, says he's standing down with immediate effect, triggering another by-election. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson and ex-Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries announced their resignations yesterday. The Privileges Committee will meet on Monday to conclude its Partygate inquiry, promising to publish its report promptly. A 16-year-old boy has been charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of GBH after an attack at a private school in Devon. Police who were called to Blundell School in Tiverton at around 1 a.m. on Friday say 3 people, including 2 students, sustained multiple serious injuries. Prosecutors say a British girl stabbed in the French Alps will be able to leave hospital in the next few days. The 3-year-old was on holiday with her parents when she and 3 other young children were attacked at a park in the town of Annecy on Thursday. 2 pensioners were also injured. Prosecutors confirmed the victims are no longer in a critical condition. A 31-year-old Syrian refugee is facing attempted murder charges. He has been remanded in custody. At least 4 troops have fainted in the heat during the Colonel's Review in central London. Thousands of people were at Horse Guards Parade watching as Prince William assessed the events ahead of Trooping the Colour next Saturday. He later acknowledged the difficult conditions as he paid tribute to those who took part. The Met Office has confirmed temperatures in the UK have reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 being recorded at Heathrow. And more on all of our stories on our website, that's gbnews.com. Now, back to Nana.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Now, just to correct something, Anne Widdecombe said that it was actually a kangaroo court, and I think I said that they all thought that it wasn't. So just to confirm, Anne Widdecombe did think it was a kangaroo court, and I actually agree with her. Because still to come, though, at 5, we'll be doing my difficult conversation. Katie Price's ex-fiancé, Chris Boyston, will be joining me to discuss how the power of sport saved his life. But, of course, it's the Great British Debate this hour. Coming up next, I'll be asking, do you believe Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Stay tuned, that's up next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is two new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Don't forget to download the GB News app. It's free. You can check out all the programmes on the channel. But it's now time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Now, following the resignation of the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Tory MP and Boris ally Nigel Adams has also resigned. That triggered a third by-election in a 24-hour period. Boris Johnson, who won 2 terms as a mayor of London, as well as winning an 80-seat majority in Parliament, dramatically resigned with immediate effect last night. And some MPs argue that he reshaped the political landscape by rolling out the hugely successful vaccine scheme and leading Europe's response to the war in Ukraine. In his resignation statement, the blonde-haired bombshell took aim at the Privileges Committee. I know you're going to say it's me, not me. No, that's not me. It's my new wig. Describing them as the very definition of a kangaroo court. Many see this as a Remainer coup, but others would argue Boris broke the rules during the pandemic at a time when he should have been leading the country. So for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Dowler, we'll start with you.
Do I think it was a kangaroo court and a Remain a coup? No. I think, but Brexit's already gone through, so I mean, you know, it's been done apparently. Even though, you know, you look at the polling at throughout the nation, a lot of people have, you know, buyer's remorse when it comes to Brexit. A lot of, I think if we had the Brexit vote now, it wouldn't go through.
Who have you seen with buyer's remorse?
So many people I know, and so many polls have said that they wish they hadn't voted for Brexit, or that they wouldn't vote.
The polls said that Brexit wouldn't happen, so they got that wrong.
Yeah,
so.
but
Can I remind you, 17 million voted for Brexit.
Yes, I know, and unfortunately, as I've said before, that I think it was, you know, it was Boris's misinformation that pushed it over the line by the small amount that went over the line.
No,
anyway.
No, that's not why I voted for Brexit, or why many voted for it. So to say that is slightly patronising. People voted for lots of different reasons.
Fair enough, but also a lot of people didn't really know what it was about. That's what they were sending out.
Well, we knew what the EU was about, and it was enough to run
from. It certainly wasn't £250 million to, you know,
but we all know
into
that
the NHS every week, and we have to admit that that wasn't true, was it?
Well, listen, did you think I believed what was on the bus, or do you think I voted for what was on the bus?
Yeah, but that's,
or do you think
you're an intelligent
well, exactly,
woman.
and there are plenty of others like that, as you patronise many who voted for different reasons.
Anyway, the point is that was Remain a coup? No, I don't think it was, because I think there's any chance of us, even if Labour get in, and even if they want to get back in. I mean, maybe if we had another referendum, then we got back in, it'd be embarrassing and it would look stupid, and I don't think so. I don't see Boris is already down and out. What would be the point in like a Remain a coup kicking him out?
Well, you would say that. You would say that, but then you think that they ditched this privileges nonsense. Now he's not even an MP, but they're still going on.
It's a nonsense.
The whole thing was silly.
And I'm sorry, Harriet Harman, who hated Boris, hated Brexit, and I'm going to call her Skippy from now on, because it is a kangaroo court. It really is, and you know it is. I mean, how would you like to be trialled and judged by a load of people that you knew didn't like you, weren't supporters of you, and didn't want Brexit, what you believed in? And I'm sorry, we've got to look at some of the things Boris has done, and I for one, miss him. I miss his maverick ways and his personality, but most of all, what he did do, and as you mentioned, Nana, the vaccine rollout, he was fantastic with his support, the first to support Zelensky in the Ukraine war, and he did support Brexit. He did do it. And, you know, the Tories didn't really want it. Rishi doesn't really want it. And this is a real betrayal, I think, to the party. And it's the in-house fighting that is you know, it's the downfall.
But it's their own party fighting within themselves. But then obviously then they've got the opposition as well, who are quite happy and will jump on the bandwagon. But Harriet Harman, as we talk about the kangaroo court, in 2016, I think it was, just around about the time that we all voted to leave the EU, Harriet Harman was shown pictures of 7 EU top officials, and she asked, who are they?
Who they?
She had no idea who they were. So that
she's got less of a brain.
Look,
this is the same. You know,
I don't think this is anything to do with Brexit. Brexit, we've already left. Whether we wanted to or whether we didn't, whether somebody didn't want to, whether it's been good for our country or whether it hasn't been, it has no bearing on whether Boris Johnson is in government or not. So I mean,
no, that's not true.
It's not going to make any difference.
No, you said it's got no bearing on whether Boris Johnson is in government or not. The reason he's in government is because because of Brexit, because he said that he'd get Brexit done, which is why we voted for him. But remember, there's literally a visceral hatred towards him by some people, no matter what he does. And also, remember the opposition that we had. The government took 3 years to actually get on with it, because they kept trying to stop Brexit from happening because the vote wasn't what they wanted.
But he was a kingmaker back in the day. Everybody loved him. He got this massive majority, it reminds me of with Maggie Thatcher, and with
Tony Blair.
Yeah, basically, if you stick around for too long and people don't like it, then your own party will stab you in the back, and that's exactly what they did with Maggie Thatcher, and that's exactly what they did with. It's obviously things move quicker in this day and age, and that's exactly what they've done with Boris.
Boris is like Marmite. You either love him or you loathe him. But I tell you what, he is going to come back, and he's still got a lot in him, and he will come back for Rishi. And the thing is, sadly, with the Conservative Party, people don't trust Rishi. They've seen what he's done.
I think he's not going to come back.
Why would he do that to himself now?
He's going to make millions.
Yeah, he will.
He will come back.
He's going to make millions writing about his experience and the kangaroo court that he's just been held up in.
If Liz Truss can make a fortune,
No, he'll be like
selling her wares.
What do you mean, Liz Truss? Don't you mean Theresa May?
I'm just saying. And Liz Truss as well.
Theresa May.
She charges a fortune for. I'd rather listen to Theresa May than Liz Truss. That's for sure.
What's the surprise there?
He's obsessed with Winston Churchill. He's king of the comeback. So let me tell you, he'll be back.
I can't see the point as to why he should bother. But this show's nothing without you and your views. I mean, who would want to lead a bunch of backstabbers? Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics that we're discussing. We'll be heading over to have a chat with my lovely friend Lee in Bristol. But before we do that, I want a final thought from you, Sam, with regard to this whole kangaroo court, because you are the lefty in all this.
Well, yeah, as I said, I don't think it was a kangaroo court. I think I think the majority of the British public wouldn't even have known this was going on. I mean, it's gone on for years and years and years, and the fact that he's resigned with such a hissy fit, and the same with the Dean Dorries as well. I mean,
Lee,
it's ridiculous.
Stop him.
He didn't even wait until the white paper came out. He just resigned.
Right, let's go to Lee Harris. Lee Harris is our great British voice. Lee, let's go to Bristol. Let's find him. There he is. Yes, Lee Harris, nice to see you. I've got to ask you, I mean, do you think this is a kangaroo court, first of all, and also, do you think it's a Remainer coup?
I'm just going to say it how I see it, Nana. This is an anti-Boris Remainer coup, to be precise. You'd have to be living under a rock not to see exactly what's happened. At this point, I'm not going to lie, my support for the Conservative Party and respect for our democracy, for that matter, is probably at the lowest point it's ever been. Let's be clear, this was a Remainer, Boris-hating stitch-up right from the start. I thought Boris's statement was spot on, and by the way, so was your monologue, Nana. I literally agree with every single word of it. Even to the casual observer, it's obvious this committee was fundamentally flawed. And if you read Lord Panic's report, it was demonstrably unfair from a legal perspective too. This was a political show trial designed to drive Boris out of Parliament, and they succeeded. And the reason they want him gone is obvious. It's punishment for Brexit, and they know they can't beat Boris in an election.
Well, listen, Lee, we're running out of time. We're going to have to go, but I think that ends very nicely because I agree with you. I think a lot of people do, and I don't know why people aren't saying it. Lee Harris, thank you so much. He's our great British voice. Let's see what you've been saying about it. Julie says, I definitely feel Boris has been hounded out and I feel disenfranchised. I cannot vote Tory. As Rishi Sunak is not my Prime Minister. He's nobody's. No one voted for him. I feel very sad as I've voted Tory for the last 50 years. Marion says he was definitely forced out. Ronald says, hi, Nana, I'm 78, and since I was eligible to vote, I've never had a problem deciding which party to vote for. Now I haven't a clue which party I feel could run this country. That's because it's none of the above. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Just ahead of this week's difficult conversation, Katie Price's ex-fiancé, Chris Boyson, will be joining me to discuss how sport saved his life. Stay tuned. But before all that, royal biographer Angela Levin will be joining me in the studio to give us the latest details about Harry's week from hell.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Is it 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock, cracking. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, there is always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. Prince Harry took to the witness stand in a lawsuit against the British press over phone hacking claims. Queen Camilla attended the opening of the British Flower Show this week, where Gardener Alan Titchmarsh greeted her with a kiss. And a date has been confirmed for the King's first state visit to Scotland since the coronation. And every Saturday I love to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Very nice to be here.
I love the green. I was actually going to wear green today, and I chose to wear this colour.
Well, that would have gone well.
Would have been completely matching. Lighter. But these are complementary colours.
Yes, good.
So where do you want to start this one?
Well, I want to start with Harry, actually.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel that it was the last straw when he said that Great Britain, this wonderful country, was rock bottom. I thought it was absolutely the most appalling thing. He didn't have to say it. He wanted, I still think he's trying to crash the royal family and anybody who belongs to the UK out of this world. And I thought, you can't be a councillor and advise, stand in for the King if it should be necessary. I mean, fortunately, the King has got Princess Anne and Prince Edward to be there if he's not there, so that makes it more unlikely that Harry will. But you never know what can happen if they're away in different countries. And I thought, you know, something must be done about that, because we can't let him loose. He's just not right. He's not fair.
Well, I mean, look, this is a clip of his performance in court. I mean, obviously, we had to recreate it, but take a look, Angela.
I think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011, the time period that makes up your claim against MGN.
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
So this performance in court as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't understand how he could swear you know, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and then quite obviously tell a whole load of things that aren't accurate. And I think by the age of 38, one needs to know the difference between actually giving facts and then just thinking that something might be and feeling it's not fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I don't know whether he wanted to just create a space for him to be seen and talked about, or whether he's got litigation obsession. I mean, you can have that where people who want to keep on and on and on, bringing people to court. Yes, just as he might take drugs and he might do all sorts of addictions. You might have all sorts of addictions. But, I mean, this might be yet another one, and we're going to see it for years and years and years, and that's not right. And I think the way he talked about his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy, 115 times he mentioned her. Meghan got 5, which she'll tell him off for, I'm quite sure. And it's not fair on her. Did he ask her? I don't know. I doubt it somehow. And he blaming them for the relationship not going through. But he almost dropped her because he was so busy learning how to fly a helicopter. He didn't have time for her. Yeah. She was fed up with him.
Yeah, well, that happens. He obviously can't accept that one either. But, you know, I just think it's embarrassing watching him there. You know, we know he's got his situation with drugs, which we know he takes. He's admitted it. And he may well even get kicked out of the States. We'll see how this plays out. But we've got loads of other things to talk about as well. Who else have we got?
Yes. Well, one of the things I want to talk about is that the change that's happened within the monarchy, that we are now... it's different from the Queen. Queen Camilla doesn't carry a handbag, as the Queen always does. She doesn't wear gloves, as the Queen always does. She doesn't wear a hat, as the Queen always does. And actually, we saw her going to open a garden centre and also do an army thing. And she's just dressed in a very nice summer dress, like anybody could be. And I think this is part of the King and her own wish to be more accessible to people and make it as sort of we are ordinary people in an extraordinary job. And I think that is very interesting. That I always remember that Prince Philip said we have to make changes very, very slightly so nobody knows that they're happening, and they suddenly look and there it is. And I think this is one of his things that he would be very pleased about.
And didn't King Charles go to Scotland recently?
Yeah, they're going to Scotland, and in the early July they're going to celebrate the coronation, which will be lovely for them because they love Scotland. And I think we'll see the way that the Scottish people feel about the monarchy now that he's taken on the role, and he's being gentle and soft. Actually, he's not trying to sort of, I'm a big shot now. It's all quite slow and careful.
And very briefly, you've got about 20 seconds. Do you think that the King needs to step in and deal with Harry somehow?
I think somehow he needs to now. I think you can't have somebody attacking this country and still be a member of the royal family.
Yeah, maybe take him out of the line of succession in any way, shape or form would be... Yeah, I'd be quite happy with that.
Let him keep the title if that's what he wants, because that's very complicated, but take him out of succession, because he said, I'm 5th at the moment in line. And you think, OK, hold on. You're not going to be any more than that. You might be less or out.
Just take him out, take him out.
He does need to be taken out.
Angela Levin, thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Nana.
That is, of course, royal biographer Angela Levin. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. More to come in the next hour. So it's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. On the way, just ahead, we've got Katie Price's former ex-fiancé, Chris Boyson. He'll be speaking about his mental health struggles during this week's difficult conversation. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? Following Prince Harry's week from hell, we'll be discussing that after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. It is 5 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister is facing calls for a general election following the announcement of a third Tory resignation. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty, says he's standing down with immediate effect, triggering Another by-election. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced his resignation yesterday after being contacted by the committee investigating whether he misled Parliament. The ex-Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries stepped down shortly after. The Shadow Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, says it's clear Johnson lied.
Boris Johnson has shown himself to be a coward once more. You know, he's not held his hands up to and taken responsibility as he should do. The Privileges Committee, a well-respected committee that are made up majority of Tory MPs, and he's just tried to trash them and say, I've got no responsibility, I've done nothing wrong. He's a man that can never hold his hands up to what he's done, and I think it's an absolute disgrace. And, you know, good riddance. He shouldn't have been in Parliament in the first place.
However, there are mixed feelings about Boris Johnson's resignation in his constituency.
He's actually done a good thing for the constituency in resigning, because I think it opens it for somebody that can come in and do a better job for us.
I wouldn't say I'm pleased. I think, isn't government more than one man? Shouldn't we be doing more than just going after individuals?
I loved him as a character and I thought he was great, so it's sad.
A 16-year-old boy has been charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of grievous bodily harm after an attack at a private school in Devon. Police who were called to Blundell's school in Tiverton around 1 o'clock yesterday morning say 3 people, including 2 students, sustained multiple serious injuries. A boy is in a critical condition and the other is said to be serious but stable. Prosecutors say a British girl stabbed in the French Alps will be able to leave hospital in the next few days. The 3-year-old was on holiday with her parents when she and 3 other young children were attacked at a park in the town of Annecy on Thursday. 2 pensioners were also injured. Prosecutors confirmed the victims are no longer in a critical condition. A 31-year-old Syrian refugee is facing attempted murder charges. He has been remanded in custody. At least 4 troops have fainted in the heat during the Colonel's Review in central London. Thousands of people were at Horse Guards Parade watching as Prince William assessed the event. It comes ahead of Trooping the Colour next Saturday. Prince William later acknowledged the difficult conditions as he paid tribute to those who took part. Well, the Met Office has confirmed temperatures in the UK have reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 recorded at Heathrow. GB News understands plans to house asylum seekers on a ship near Liverpool have been abandoned. A government source has told us the vessel, which was due to house 500 men, will no longer be used following objections from Peel ports. Meanwhile, Italy's Ministry of Defence has released video of a Turkish ship that was hijacked by armed illegal migrants trying to reach Europe. Italian special forces stormed the vessel yesterday and after nearly 7 hours regained control of the ship, detaining 15 people. Officials say 22 members of the crew have been released. None were seriously injured. An extra £16 million of humanitarian aid is being sent to Ukraine following the explosion at a dam. The government says the money will be used to help around 32,000 people in the Kherson region whose homes have been flooded after the blast. Ukraine has blamed Russia for the attack, and Moscow has denied that. 4 Colombian children have been rescued more than 5 weeks after their plane crashed in a jungle. The siblings, aged between 1 and 13, were found by the military. Not far from the crash site, they've been taken to a military hospital for specialist medical care. And last month, the president of the country wrongly announced they had been found. He's described the discovery as a joy for the whole country. The children's mother, though, the pilot and co-pilot, died in the crash. And Manchester City are hoping for a big win tonight in the UEFA Champions League final. They're taking on Inter Milan in Istanbul. If City win, they'll become just the 2nd British team to win all 3 competitions in one season after winning the Premier League and FA Cup. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. But now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Still to come, it's my difficult conversation. Katie Price's ex-fiancé Chris Boyson will be joining me to discuss how the power of sport saved his life. You won't want to miss that. Then for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? The Duke of Sussex appeared in court against the British press after he accused them of hacking his phone in what some have described as Prince Harry's week from hell.
You think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011, the time period that makes up your claim against MGM?
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
Dear, dear, you go to court when you have the facts, not to get them. From his controversial documentaries to his explosive interviews, is it time for the monarch to step in? Email me your thoughts, gbviews@gbnews.com, or tweet me at GBNews. So good afternoon. Now it is time for this week's difficult conversation. Chris Boyson, who is known for dating TV personality Katie Price, has said that the power of sport saved his life after suffering with his mental health when he was in his early 20s. Over the last 13 years, Chris has been working as a qualified weight loss specialist trainer and a life coach. And he says that 75% of his clients suffer from mental health issues, weight problems and even osteoporosis. Chris attempts to combine counselling with exercise to help his clients gain a more positive outlook. And he's also designed a lifestyle app. Growing up, Chris led a privileged life and has emphasised at the point that mental health issues can affect anyone in society. Famously, he hit the headlines after he split from his former fiancée, Katie Price, after having had an on and off relationship. Well, I'm delighted to say that Chris Boyson joins me now. Well, easy mistake. I bet that happens all the time, Chris, does it?
I don't mind it. You can say that again if you want.
Hey, thank you. So, Chris, it's so nice. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
I want to find out more about you, though, because obviously people know you as an ex-partner for Katie Price, but a lot of people don't know more about you yourself. So I really want to take the opportunity to find out more. Talk to me about your upbringing. I know it was privileged, but because you've said that in the past, but what was it like growing up? Where were you born? What's the deal?
So I was born in Kent, and I had a really good upbringing. Really nice family, successful family. A huge family as well, so there's loads of us around, loads of cousins. I've got siblings, and yeah, we had a really good upbringing. I was always very confident, bit of a jack the lad, bit cocky, and yeah, just growing up was a really good life, which is what some people struggle with when they sort of hit a bit of depression or anxiety, and they think, well, why should I be like that when I've had such a great upbringing?
Yeah, because people might look on that and say, we've got nothing to be upset or depressed about, seeing as you seem to have everything that you want. You're a good-looking man as well. So why on earth would somebody like you feel depressed? But do you know what it was that made you feel that way? Is there anything you could pinpoint it on?
I've been asked this a few times, and yeah, there is one moment that really did sort of spin my head as such for me. And I was actually just out at a local pub once. I used to suffer a little bit with anxiety, but I was at a local pub, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was drinking Diet Coke because I was playing an important football cup final the next day, because I used to play football at a decent level. And I was drinking Diet Coke in this pub, and next thing I know, I had this out-of-body experience. I'd been spiked by 3 guys that tried stealing my watch off of me. And it just stemmed from there. I had this out-of-body experience, like I say. You can imagine you're sitting there drinking Diet Coke, and the next thing it's like you don't know where you are. So I think a bit of PTSD with that as well. But after that, it was a real struggle to get over that. I felt like I was always in this sort of dream, which I now know is called depersonalisation, and it's something that's really common that people don't realise that they're suffering with.
Yeah, because I could imagine that, you know, if something like that happens and you have this out-of-body weird experience, suddenly the things that you perceived as normal suddenly aren't, and then it's like a different reality that you then become accustomed to. Maybe on that level it may have felt a bit odd. And that is such an evil thing for someone to do, isn't it? Because then you lose... Well, it will make you paranoid. I mean, I'd be paranoid about drinking anything again if something like that happened to me. I mean,
I think it's the after effect of it was like it was still there, and I spoke to a few people about it, professionals, and they said, it's a lasting effect that you have to sort of learn to deal with it and take the right measures to sort of work with it, you know. And I think it's more common than you think to have this depersonalisation type anxiety-based depression. But yeah, at the time I didn't know what it was. It felt like I was still in this dream of like a strange trip from when I was originally spiked. And I remember saying to my mum and dad all the time, I just feel like I'm in a dream and I just need it I want to go back to normal. I want to go back to normal, you know?
Well, that's a lot of reason why a lot of these people take the drugs in the first place, sort of get out of themselves and get out from the reality that they're in. But when you don't want to be out of that reality, then that's not really on, is it? Did you find it easy to ask for help then?
No, not at all. Growing up, for me, I was always like the alpha male, like I say, the Jack the Lad. Like everyone, I suppose, would have looked at me and said, "Oh, he's got everything. He's all right. There's nothing wrong with him." And fortunately enough, my mum and dad. My mum used to suffer with mental health issues, so she could really relate to it. And my dad, the most supporting guy ever. I remember him sitting me down and saying, "Well, what do you want to do then? What makes you feel better?" And that's when my exercise came into it. I said to him, "Look, I need to do something based around fitness or exercise because it's the only thing that makes me feel better." I mean, I was at a point where I was listening to the same song on repeat on the way to work. At this point, I worked in an office. On the way to work, during work, on the way home, I was listening to a certain song that just gave me comfort.
What song was that?
And my dad sat me down and said, "Listen, you can't do this anymore."
What was the song? Which song was it?
It was actually a Kenny Rogers song called "The Gambler." I'm really big into my country music, and I just found comfort in it. And I've forever had, every time that song comes on, it always makes me reminds me of that moment.
Does it go, "I'm a gambler, and I will take you as a prize"? Oh, hang on, maybe. I don't know how it goes now. I'm trying to... It doesn't go like that. I can't sing.
That's not the one that I was listening to.
Is it not? Oh, OK, fair enough. So you turned to sport to get through it. Listen, I used to be a trainer, a master trainer like you in a way, but you can't train yourself. Maybe you could train me. I thought I'd ask you on air so that you could say yes, then I could hold you to it. So you better. I want to be ripped, you know, like... Can you? Do you mind?
I see what you've done there, yeah. You've held me to that, haven't you? Yeah.
You just answered. Very clever, very clever. So talk to me then about this, because a lot, when you see Prince Harry and a lot of the stick that he's getting, and I think a lot of it brought on by himself, what do you take away from watching that?
I mean, first of all, I can't help but laugh at the reenactment that you keep showing. Whether that's right or wrong, I can't help but laugh at it. I'm not really qualified to talk on it, but I'm with you guys. Everything that, hence why I love this show, really, because you sort of say it how it is. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think that 1 minute he's saying he doesn't want the press and the attention, but next minute he's doing a bloody good job of getting it. So I feel that mental side of it. It will be a struggle, but he's not helping himself bringing it on, you know. And I think that the mental health issues are probably coming from something else rather than the paparazzi. Yeah. Well, apologies for the swearing, by the way, but he did also mention his ex 115 times, which would be a worry if you were sort of married to him or going out with him. What would you say to people who are sort of feeling depressed? Because I know you said that with your sport, you also combine it with mental health. Now, as a trainer, I deliberately did not combine it with mental health, frankly, because I'm too impatient. I think they should get their help somewhere else. But ultimately, the reason I gave up training people was because it was always, in most cases, a mental health issue. What do you say to people when they come to you and they're overweight and, you know, they're trying to lose weight or they want to get fitter? Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, mental health is massive within the fitness industry. And like I say, 70% of my clients are dealing with some sort of mental health. I think the way you've got to look at it, though, is they're dealing with mental health because of maybe weight gain, disabilities. I train people with disabilities, all types of illnesses, people that need to gain weight as well, weight loss. There's all types of reasons that I train people. And I think the mental health side of it is a massive issue, because I sort of have to sit my clients down and say, well, be honest, be open. And at first they don't want to be open with me and tell me the real reasons. But as soon as you start training people and you're releasing the endorphins, the feel-good hormone, and you're throwing in a bit of counselling as well, and sort of opening them up a little bit and making them feel comfortable, they then talk about these bad problems and negative problems, but they relate them to feeling good because you're releasing the endorphins. So it kind of comes hand in hand, and I've felt that it's worked wonders for the last 13 years. I've helped thousands of different clients now just achieve their goals and generally feel better about themselves, and it's the amazing job satisfaction.
Well, I found my clients just kept calling me up. Can I eat this? I was like, just clear off. I'm trying to have a family meal now. But if you've got the time, that is wonderful. You see, that's great. Talk to me about the app then, because I guess that sort of gets you out of having to keep this constant, because you've probably got a lot of phone calls. Can I eat this? How many calories in that? I'm going on holiday, this, that and the other. So the app, you've got an app now that probably deals with people like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's only so much you can help your clients and still live your life. And I'm always very, very busy. So I released an app, we've now converted it into a website, actually, because it's just more user-friendly for what we wanted it. But it's a lifestyle app. So you've got your home training on there, your home meditation, yoga, mental health section just for your mind, body and soul. The meditation's great on it. And it's just a wellness site, really, a hub for people that are struggling with their, like we've just mentioned, your mental health or your weight loss side of it. And I think it's just that it enables me to hit a wider audience and be able to give my services to more people than just the clients that I can fit in during the day.
That's fantastic. And is it all working for you then, this whole approach with fitness? For me, fitness keeps me sane. I mean, I love fitness. That's what I do. But is it working for you now? Is it keeping you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, when you look at the figures of people that take their own lives, we're looking at over 100 people a week in the UK, in England and Wales, and like 75% of them are male. So yeah, you kind of can't help but think, can we offer something else that is exercise based? Look, I know it's hard. People go to the doctors, and a doctor can't give you a personal trainer. I get that. But we do need to try and sort of push how important exercise is and how much it can dramatically change your life.
Yeah. Well, listen, Chris, where's the app then? Just might as well tell people what it's called, where people can find it.
It's Coach Chris.
Coach Chris with a K, like a kiss, K-R-I-S, just the one S. Chris, thank you so much. That is Chris Poisson. He's a fitness instructor and nutritionist, and of course was known for his relationship years ago with Katie Price. Well, if anyone's been affected by any of the things that have been spoken about in today's programme, when life is difficult, the Samaritans are here, so they're there day and night, 365 days a year. You can call them for free on 116123. That's 116123, or email them at joe@samaritans.org, or visit their website, all the W's, samaritans.org, to find their nearest branch. OK, I hope that helped. I hope that made sense. I'll repeat that again. It is joe@samaritans.org, or visit all the W's, samaritans.org, to find the nearest branch. But just on the way, though, according to reports, Germany wants to introduce a Rwanda-style migrant system. Has the UK government got the right idea? Coming up, though, next, the Great British Debate. I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? With the Duke of Sussex seemingly making the news headlines every single week without fail, should his father give him a helping hand, or do you think that it's time for Harry to just come home? That's next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 24 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome on board if you've just tuned in. It's now time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? Prince Harry has one horrible week. He's had a horrible week, hasn't he? Honestly, I think he's lost even more hair, being the first high-ranking British royal to take the witness stand in 132 years. Why? It didn't seem like he knew much when he got on it. The Duke of Sussex appeared in court against the British press after he accused them of hacking his phone. Although, again, he couldn't sort of mention when he thought that had happened. According to GB News, his very own dramatisation, the events, he seemed to be on the brink of tears.
You think your phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period between 1996 and 2011, the time period that makes up your claim against MGM.
It could have been happening on a daily basis. I simply don't know.
Are you aware of any evidence to show this?
No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord.
I'm sorry. Last week, Harry stated that he and Meghan will not be writing books, filming documentaries or sitting down for any more interviews. You know why, though, don't you? They're going to be behind the camera and people will play them as a role. That's what I think. So with the Duke of Sussex seemingly making the news headlines every single week without any end in sight, should his father just give him a helping hand and just kind of talk to him about it. Do you think it's time King Charles, stepped in and got him to come home, because he may well be kicked out of America soon? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? Well, joining me to discuss that, Jenny Bond, royal commentator, Michael Cole, royal commentator, Matthew Stadlen, political commentator, and Anna McGovern, political commentator. I'm going to start with you, Michael Cole.
Nana, it's impossible for the King to intercede at this time. A reconciliation is out of the question now, and it's possibly always out of the question, because what Harry has said in his books and in the television programmes, multi-part television programmes in which he's taken part, is very cruel and very hurtful. Now, most men can put up with insults. Goodness knows I've been insulted by experts, and you get over it. But in this case, Harry has insulted the Queen, Camilla, and the Princess of Wales, Kate, and Prince William and the King will find that very, very difficult to forgive. So it's going to be a very long process. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's going to be a very difficult process. In the meantime, we have to wonder what's going on, because as you've said, last week, there's nothing in the British Constitution that says a prince cannot go into one of the courts of his father in the Royal Courts of Justice and give evidence, but it's rarely done, and there's a reason for that, and we saw it this week. At the end of his testimony, he was asked by his counsel, David Sherburne, how do you feel? A very good California question. How do you feel? And he said, he choked up and he said, it's a lot. Now, this is a man who sat in the front seat of an Apache attack helicopter and, according to his account, killed 25 Taliban. But facing the Mirror Group's counsel, Andrew Green, has been a little bit too much for him. And he should have thought of that, because it's ironic, isn't it? He wants privacy. And you saw in those pictures which you just ran, there were two banks of photographers. The entire Nikon choir was there filming his every move. Well, that is not the way to live a private life.
I want to bring Jenny Bond in on that. Jenny.
Well, actually, I think he was quite chirpy on the way back to the States. He was posing for pictures with the airline staff, and he left a copy of his book for one of the airline crew there. It was tough. It was tough, I think, for him to be in court, but I also think it was courageous. I think he has cojones. I think it's very ballsy to do what he did, to take on the British press. Most people settle out of court, and I'm very sorry that he has been subjected to intrusion most of his life and to stories which have made him very depressed and very unhappy. I'm sorry that's happened to him. I don't think he landed a punch really against the Mirror Group. He hadn't got enough evidence, as you say. And as to whether Prince Charles, King Charles, should step in, well, yes, I think probably he should, in that it's up to the parent to be the bigger person in any family row. You've just got to take it on the chin and forgive and keep the corridor of communication open. I hope that's what the King is doing.
Well, I wonder if he will. Anna McGovern.
You know, it'd be great to see him actually step in. I think, however, the damage is pretty much been done. I think Prince Harry and Meghan, they've put themselves in a position where they've been slandering the royal family and actually capitalising off the back of it. And yet, even though they're slandering the royal family, they still remain to keep their royal titles. So if you're going to put yourself in the public eye, if you're going to slander the royal family, expect criticism, expect the media to come after you. And I think that this has gone on for far too long. I think the work that Prince Harry did, for example, with Prince William, particularly their campaigning, their charity work that I was involved with a few years ago, it's very admirable and helps so many people. And it's such a shame to actually see Prince Harry sort of go away from that, from actually doing work that was really useful to just making a living off slandering the royal family and yet keeping all the royal benefits with it. I think that Prince Charles should hope, it would be nice to see him step in, but is it too little too late?
Well, King Charles. Matthew Stadlen.
I instinctively, as you know, Nana, quite like Prince Harry, but I think he's made mistakes. This isn't a binary thing. We're all human, aren't we? So we're all capable of getting things wrong. I think it wasn't the right decision to, as it were, tell tales about his own family, although he'd argue is telling his side of the story. it's also true that everyone is entitled to their day in court, whether or not they're a prince. And if any of us had undergone the sort of scrutiny and intrusion in our private lives that he had to as a young man, we might very well have wanted to go to court ourselves. After all, he didn't ask to be a prince. He's entitled to have relationships without the prying gaze and glare of the cameras, in my view. Don't forget, he's taken on the Mirror Group. The Mirror, we can't prejudge the trial, the outcome of this case. We simply don't know how it will end. But we do know that the Mirror Group has previously settled claims against it, and it has previously admitted, this is all fact, previously admitted that phone hacking did take place at the group. So you can see why Prince Harry has gone to court. Lots of people want to settle outside court.
He said he went.
I think it's rather brave to go and have your moment in court.
But he said he kind of went after he'd spoken to, I think it was Elton John's barrister or something, which he hadn't thought about it before, and he was even asked that. So he hadn't even thought about it until that point, and he seemed to be actually enjoying himself.
Just to come back very quickly on that, because there was an allusion earlier by one of the other guests about mental health, and we all know now, don't we, that you can serve in the military, as Harry did, very bravely. You can go through those life and death experiences and still suffer from mental ill health. So I think we need to be sympathetic to that.
Well, that goes without saying. I don't doubt that for a moment. That goes without saying. Anna McGovern.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think that the work that he did previously was actually incredibly admirable, especially, serving in the army, his charity work. He set up the Stop Speak Support campaign, which was helping young people deal with the online world and how to navigate, for example, children using social media and how to deal with negative comments. I think some of that work was incredibly useful and involving a lot of his campaigning work at NSPCC Childline. However, I think he's put himself in a position where he's been criticising the royal family, that he used the platform for, that he's taken all the benefits from. And actually, I just think it's completely disrespectful and it just shows what kind of person he's turned into now.
Well, listen, we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it there. But just briefly, just a yes or no. Matthew Stadlin, should King Charles step in, yes or no?
No.
Jenny Bond?
Yes.
Michael Cole?
Impossible.
And Anna?
Would be nice, but extremely unlikely.
Unlikely, right. OK, well, it was a yes or no. You failed.
Yes.
You didn't answer the question. Thank you very much. Jenny Bond, royal commentator, Michael Cole, royal commentator, Matthew Stadlin, also Anna McGovern, political commentator. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Well, that's their thoughts. What are yours? You can get in touch by the usual means. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. We'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? Following Prince Harry's week from hell, you'll hear the thoughts from my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you. It is 5:33. Aaron Armstrong here in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister is facing calls for a general election following the announcement of a third Tory resignation. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty in North Yorkshire, says he's standing down with immediate effect, triggering another by-election. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson and ex-Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries announced their resignations yesterday. That's as the Privileges Committee prepares to meet on Monday to conclude its inquiry into whether Johnson misled Parliament over Partygate. They're promising to publish the report promptly. A 16-year-old boy has been charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of GBH after an attack at a private school in Devon. Police who were called to Blundell School in Tiverton around 1 a.m. yesterday morning say 3 people, including 2 students, sustained multiple serious injuries. Prosecutors say a British girl stabbed in southern France will be able to leave hospital in the next few days. The 3-year-old was on holiday with her parents when she and 3 other young children were attacked in a playground in the town of Annecy on Thursday. 2 pensioners were also injured. Prosecutors confirmed the victims are no longer in a critical condition, and a 31-year-old Syrian refugee facing attempted murder charges has been remanded in custody. At least 4 troops fainted in the heat during the Colonel's Review in central London earlier. Thousands of people were at Horse Guards Parade watching as Prince William assessed the event ahead of Trooping the Colour next Saturday. He later acknowledged difficult conditions and paid tribute to those who took part. The Met Office confirmed temperatures in the UK reached 30 degrees for the first time this year, with 30.5 recorded at Heathrow. More on our stories on our website. That's gbnews.com. Now, it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. On the way, according to reports, Germany wants to follow in the footsteps of the UK and introduce a Rwanda-style migrant system. What do you think? Have Britain got it right? A lot of people complaining, saying it wasn't the right thing to do. But coming up next, we'll be asking you whether you think King Charles should step in.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. It's fast approaching 40 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in I mean, you've seen what's happened with Prince Harry. He's had a horrible week. He's been one of the first sort of high-ranking British royals to take the witness stand in 132 years. The Duke of Sussex appeared in the court against the British press after he accused them of hacking his phone. And last week, Harry stated that he and Meghan will not be writing books, no more films, no more documentaries or mockumentaries. Oh, my heart bleeds, oh no. Or sitting down for interviews like Oprah, no more, apparently. But he didn't mention court cases. So with the Duke of Sussex seemingly making the news headlines every single week without fail, should his father give him a helping hand? As in, help him out type thing, stop him from this nonsense. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time for King Charles to step in? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined now by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. Right, so Lizzie Cundy, let's start with you. Yeah, I mean, what did you think of him this week, Prince Harry?
Well,
in court?
When you go to court, you have to deal with facts, not hearsay and near truths. It's about the actual evidence and real things that have happened. And sadly for Harry, he lives in Harry's own world with Harry's own rules. Yeah. And for the start wasn't that great, was it? He didn't even show up on the first day. And I think he has obviously real problems. Everyone is so sad what happened to his mother, but let's not forget it did happen to William as well. And I think now it's time for his dad to intervene. I've said before on this show, I think Harry could be done for treason. The way he's talked about his own family, it's been absolutely, I find, disgusting. And how he talked about, you know, there was an alleged royal that was racist, and then, you know, all of that isn't true.
What kind of intervention, then, would you like to see?
I think his father needs to come forward and say, Harry, enough is enough. You're making a fool of yourself. You're trying to bring down the monarchy, and if you don't stop, I'm going to take away the Duke. He will no longer be Duke, and Meghan will no longer be Duchess.
But Jenny Bond seemed to think, Sam, that he's been brave doing this, coming up, speaking in court without any evidence of anything at all. Well, it doesn't seem to be, does it? I think, to me, that's foolish. But,
well, you are brave if you go to court without any evidence.
I think so. OK.
I mean, like, when Meghan was, you know, she wasn't in the dock, for example, but she misremembered that she said you know, about certain things. And I think it's like, you know, it's illegal to obviously lie under oath, and it's perjury. And I think Harry, unfortunately, is the architect of his own demise. I mean, like, I understand, like, that he has, you know, he's had a bad run of it. And I think that no matter what happens, the British public will and would welcome him back. I mean, I think they would if he was like, you know, if he was like, I'm sorry, because like we've all grown up with him, we all know him, like, and everybody, you know, everybody makes mistakes, etc. I don't know how that would look or how it would happen, but he's just, I feel sorry for him. He's out on his own. He's out on his own.
No, he's got his family.
He doesn't. But Meghan's not there with him. Meghan's not holding his hand.
That's a big thing, actually.
That is a big thing.
Meghan should be by his side. She wasn't there for the
she's got stuff to do.
And
what's that?
Something else.
I think Harry, she feels, has damaged her own brand. With Spare, it didn't go down well. There were lots of things that weren't true in Spare, and I think it's embarrassed her. I mean, talking about the frostbitten penis, everything else, that was so unnecessary.
And the thing with the car was the nail in the coffin. That's why they've kind of stepped back,
We all know
I think.
Meghan wants a political career, and she's distanced herself, and that's why she's saying, for the minute, that they're you know, stepping down. What Harry needs to do is get his own identity, do something good, great with the charities, but listen to his father, make that relationship good again. And I think Charles should step in, because you know what? He will bring down the monarchy. It's a laughing stock. My friends in America are just laughing. Who goes to court with no evidence?
What's funny is that they're laughing.
But all he has to prove, though, he doesn't have to prove anything. He has to just prove that there is maybe it could have happened. So he doesn't have to prove it specifically. So if he can get the sympathy, which we know he's very good at doing, of the judge, because there's no jury, then he could win something.
But I think it's just like you said, Lizzie, like people are laughing at the royals, and they're laughing at, you know, our government as well. It's
embarrassing as well.
But I agree with you. you, this isn't the brand that Meghan wanted. This isn't why they left. They wanted this Netflix massive deal to, like, say their truth, say this, but there's been so many missteps along the way that I think that by this point it's just a shambles.
But let's not forget his barrister is Sherborne, who won Colleen Rooney's case with the Agatha Christie.
But that was a different story, and they had evidence, didn't they?
And Harry should never.
Well, it wasn't in the North Sea.
But Harry should never brought in politics into his case. Talking about the government, bad move.
Well, yeah, but his dad does it all the time, doesn't he? But this show isn't nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome some of our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing today. I've got 4 of them. Woohoo! Right, let's start with Miranda Richardson from Northamptonshire. Not the Miranda Richardson, but Miranda Richardson. She's our one. Miranda.
Hi, Nana. Do you know what? I don't think he's made a decision.
Oh, hang on, Jonathan. I'm asking Miranda. It's Miranda.
Made a decision as a grown man to go to court, to do it himself. Own that then. Go with it. Now, we were saying about not having evidence. The court he's in will all be down to the laws of probability. That's what they will go on. So like you said, Nana, he has a chance to prove it or just show that there was a possible chance, a probable chance that would happen. So that's what he's going with. Own it, deal with it yourself. You made that decision, you action it. Everybody else has to make decisions and own them. So I think he should too.
Interesting. Yeah, well, a very sort of interesting view there. Jonathan Jones.
So good to hear you, Nana, but we're drinking tea at the Royal Cornwall Show here with great farmers who haven't got any time for stretching the royal brand to California. That's all I say. Cheers from Cornwall.
Cheers to you. Cheers to you. So what do you think then? What do you think about Prince Harry then? You couldn't care. Right, who have I got there? Then let's go to Julie Ford in Bedford. Julie.
Nana. I just really feel sorry for him. When I'm seeing him doing all of these things, writing the book, the interviews, I just see a really damaged young boy. And I think he's looking for blame. He's looking for that validity that he should be getting from his family. And I think Meghan's not helping this. I think she's a bit of a driver in getting him to do things that ordinarily I don't think he would be doing. Do I think King Charles should step in? Yeah, absolutely. That's his dad. At the end of the day, the parent, as Jenny Bond said earlier, the parent should be the bigger person in this and should pull him to one side and just give him a big hug and try and make it all better. But whether us as the public would have him back, I don't know. To me, he's done too much damage, I think.
He's done too much damage.
Talked about his family, it's just not good enough, really. He's done a lot of damage there, I think.
And Amanda Hinckley, we're matching hair and outfits. She's a brand new GB voice. Welcome, Amanda. What do you think about this then? What should we do with him? What do you think? Should his dad forgive him, bring him back in the fold, do something, talk to him?
I mean, what's his dad going to do? Ground him? I don't understand what anyone thinks is going to happen if he does intervene, if there is an intervention. If you have a family that is as widely known as the royal family and you berate them publicly and then you monetize that, how can he then be welcomed back into the flock? He can't, because that's shown his personality, that's shown his colours, that's shown the type of person he is. He wants to make the money out of the expense of his own family. I think it's horrendous.
It is horrendous, isn't it? Would you forgive him then? Amanda, if Charles brought him back, would you forgive him?
I mean, I do forgive him because he's a human being. He's not a robot, is he? But I don't understand how staging an intervention with King Charles coming along trying to save the day is going to help. I think he's made his bed now.
He better line it. And it's not with Chelsea, who's been talking about 115 times. It's with the other one, who we only mentioned 5 times. Thank you very much, my great British voices. Lovely to talk to you all. Jonathan in Cornwall, Miranda in Northamptonshire, Amanda in Kent, and Miranda Richardson. I've said her already, haven't I? Who have I missed? And Julie, there you go. There. And you, Julie Ford. Thank you so much, guys. Lovely to talk to you. Cheers to Jonathan there with his tea. Right.
I don't think that was tea somehow.
Oh, I don't think it was tea. It wasn't tea, was it? Jonathan's lying. It wasn't tea. It was something else, because you could tell there was something going on with Jonathan there. Right, well, listen, I wanted to bring you to this story that caught my eye. Now, this one is interesting because, according to reports, Germany is pushing for the EU to adopt a deal very similar to, guess what, our deal for asylum seekers to be deported to Rwanda whilst the individual cases are dealt. I wonder if our EU friends and all the people who love the EU will suddenly change their minds and quite like the idea of Rwanda now that Germany seem to be going for it. Let's see what my panel make of that. Lizzie Cundy, do you think so? I mean, people are...
We haven't had the plane taken off here yet. And we've got to get the European judges, get rid of them.
Well, they don't...
It's never going to happen.
Well, it doesn't look like we need to, because when Germany decide, then, well, I think it'll all be OK.
Yeah. Well, I can't see it.
Well, I don't know about that. And for me, what is most important, especially in, you know, LGBTQ Pride Month, is that people won't be sent to a country where they're going to be persecuted. And I think if Germany and the UK come up with a system whereby that will never happen, then I'm fine.
Listen, whatever country you go to, you could be persecuted for whatever reason. But in Rwanda, that isn't actually the case. That was many, many years ago. But even in this country, we had that. So there has to be a time when that evolves, and then you move on. And I think the time has come where we evolve and move on, because Rwanda isn't that place that you describe with regard to LGBT. Because it wasn't that long ago.
I don't mean Rwanda in specifically. I mean to other countries as well. I think as long as they're safeguarding, you know, people who are vulnerable.
So they can go to Rwanda.
If it's deemed as a safe place, then yes.
Yes, it is. Because it's just like us, because people would have been arrested years ago.
It is deemed as a safe place, and that plane needs to take off. But we need to get rid of the European judges and the lefty lawyers.
Well, we don't need to, but we would probably need to if Germany joined, because I think half the European lawyers are probably German. Well. But right now it's time for the quick fire quiz. This is the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. If you've just tuned in, joining me to do that, it's columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy. And also, Lizzie, your buzzer, please. And also, that's Sam's buzzer.
No, it's mine.
No.
Oh, you've got... there's three on the table.
We've got three buzzers.
And now, Sam Dowler, let's hear yours as well. Lovely. All right, so please play along at home. We've got 5 questions. Question number 1. Tomorrow's tennis legend Novak Djokovic will play in the French Open final against Casper Ruud. If he wins, how many Grand Slam titles will he hold? Is it A...
Lizzie,
hang on.
So excited.
You will not. Is it A, 21, B, 23 or C, 28? Only Sam Dowler will be able to respond, Sam.
I think it's 28.
Right, Lizzie Cundy, what do you think?
23.
23. You needed to press the buzzer before you asked then, though. 23. All right, let's see. The answer is, in fact, 23. Lizzie Cundy gets it.
I know my tennis.
Yes, question 2. Wetherspoons superfan has... Did you get that at home? Fantastic. Has finally managed to visit every single Wetherspoons pub, but how many pubs did he visit? Closest answer wins. Sam Dowler.
I'm going to say 850.
850? Lizzie
400.
400. At home? Let's see. 875. Wow. What? 800. Are there really that many?
Wetherspoons?
Somebody knows it's Wetherspoons.
I thought you might. They have a lot of cheap food there, don't they?
I've got a quick Wetherspoons
She
story.
were very good, Nana.
I did a panto with Pamela Anderson. The only place she wanted to go to was a Wetherspoon.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Oh, yes, she did.
I would have paid good money to see you and Pamela Anderson at Wetherspoons,
I'll
wouldn't
send you the
I would have. Have you got the pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, love that. We'll have to see that. They'll probably be on Lizzie's Twitter feed. Check that out.
Will be.
Question 3. Apple has revealed their new futuristic goggles. It's said to be the future of virtual reality, but what is it? What is this new gadget called? Is it A, the Aperture Pro? Is it B, the Vision Pro? Or C, the Headspace Pro? Sam Dowler.
It's the Vision Pro.
It is a Vision Pro.
It's the Vision Pro. He says the Vision Pro. It's the Vision Pro. Very good. It costs around about £2,800. Will either of you be buying it?
No.
Well, they've used the same technology as they have in the Mario Kart game in Super Nintendo World, where I just went, so I just used it, and it was very impressive, I have to say.
So will you buy
that amount of money? No.
I didn't think so.
He won't even buy me a drink, let alone that.
Exactly. We take him out, we always end up paying his scarpers before the bill comes out. He did that last week. Right, question 4. True or false? That's what you always say. A crocodile in Costa Rica has made herself, although these days you can probably be right, made herself pregnant. Them made herself pregnant. The first recorded instance of virgin birth in the reptile species. I wonder if a man could do that.
True.
You think it's true?
True. I should be.
Did you press your button?
Yeah.
It was Lizzie Cundy, actually. Straight Lizzie Cundy. Let's see. The answer is true. The point goes to Lizzie Cundy.
There you go.
Because Sam Dowler buzzed before and I got the wrong one. Yes, the crocodile was kept in captivity in a zoo and had no contact with males, but a fully formed fetus was discoverable inside one of her eggs. The fetus was 99.9% genetically identified to the mother, confirming it had no father. God, just think, if we can do that soon, Lizzie, we won't need them.
Exactly.
And then try calling yourself a woman.
It will end up as the matriarchy. Believe
Question
me.
5. Which item has been banned as this year's Glastonbury Festival? Is it A, disposable vape, B, wireless headphones, or C, cigarettes? Ooh, Sam Dowler.
Disposable vapes.
Disposable vapes. Disposable vapes, you're right. Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, they're absolutely right. Winner on this show, I think, is Lizzie Cundy. Why not? Yeah, well done, Lizzie.
Why not?
On today's show, I've been asking, do you believe that Boris was forced out by a Remainer coup? And according to our Twitter poll, 78% of you say yes, 22% of you say no. I want to say a huge thank you to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also political commentator Sam Dowler.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a huge thank you to you at home for joining me with your company. I'll be back tomorrow at 4. Joining me then, Danny Kelly and I think Christine Hamilton. She had bad knee, but I think it's a lot better, so she'll be joining us tomorrow. Make sure you join me then at 4 o'clock on Sunday. Until then, though, enjoy the fabulous weather. Stay tuned. There's loads more still to come here on GB News.
Good evening, I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Saturday marks the first day since the end of August last year that temperatures rose above 30 degrees Celsius in the UK. We are feeding in this heat from southern southwestern areas of Europe, and it's going to remain quite hot as we move into Sunday as well. Combine that with these occluded fronts helping to pep up showers with outbreaks of rain, moisture and heat means humidity, and it will feel quite sticky for some of us as we head into the overnight period. The showers tending to move northwards into parts of Scotland. They could be heavy in places, generally drier throughout the early hours of Sunday morning for Northern Ireland, Wales and England. But temperatures holding up around the mid to high teens, making it slightly uncomfortable for sleeping in places, and means it will start off on a warm note on Sunday morning as well. The showers across Scotland will continue to push their way northwards, but into the afternoon, once that sunshine develops, we'll see further showers poking off around western areas of England into Wales, across southern parts as well. These could bring some torrential downpours, 30 to 40 millimetres of rain in an hour, and temperatures once again climbing towards that 30 Celsius mark, more towards eastern areas of England now. It will take a little bit of time for those showers to clear their way off. Could still be thundery into the evening time at least, and some localised flooding is possible. They'll tend to die out a bit more as we head into the overnight period, and some clear spells will develop, but could be quite misty and foggy around some coastal areas as well. Another muggy night leads into Monday, and once again it will...
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how